Okay, we're doing it. No warm up today. No music, no warm up, none whatsoever. Hold on. At Horty's. No music, no warm up. Let's go. There we go. Anyway, normally I wait for people to trickle in, and I didn't do that today. So this is what we're doing for now. Let me do this because I'm gonna need that later. Oh, good grief. How is everybody today? Those of you who are here so far, how many are people here? People? Hello, there are people here. Oh my gosh, my chats were closed. Oh yeah, nobody's in a YouTube chat. That makes sense. Hello. So yeah, Decoy Duck was in here earlier. What's up, T-Rex? We got Winter Nightmare. There's Junebug. Violet, hello. Mama Mephistopheles. Dippy Fresh in the YouTube chat. And Pydradig in the YouTube chat. Hello. So full disclosure, everybody, I feel pretty terrible today. And we're gonna kind of like focus on PV22 and then go probably afterwards. Probably not chill for very long afterwards. What did Wisconsin? I know. What's up, James and Renier? Hello. I hope that you're all having a good day so far. I decided to go to the aquarium today, and honestly, there were far too many children at the aquarium. I didn't really think about that, and I regretted that choice. But the thing is, I like figured out a place where there's supposed to be a shit ton of like fishes in permanent aquariums that they would maybe have more like actual plants in there, but there aren't. There's like shockingly few organic plants in with these fish. So it's actually like one of the more depressing kinds of ways to keep fish and like visit them. Sucked a little bit actually. What's up, Tanza? Hello. And then like for some reason I have this like chronic pain issue with the tip of my left pinky where I will try to like type and it fucking just like hurts very sharply for some reason, like on the very tip of my pinky where I type. And so I'm icing that right now because this has reduced me to tears. Like it's just so concentrated and it makes so little sense. I don't understand it at all. That like today is a crying over chronic pains problem kind of day. I might be a bad person, but I don't really like kids very much. They're annoying and loud and demanding and dumb. Here's my thing. I don't have anything against children. I think that the problem is not children. I think the problem is just that people are terrible and they raise their children to be terrible. Like there were a couple people today who were like telling their kids like, hey, you know, you're standing in the way, you know, come on, like scooch, get out of the way. And then there's other parents who just let their kids like crowd you. And it's like even it seems insane to me that we could actually be in a space where we have a worse understanding of personal space now than we did before COVID. Genuinely. Like I genuinely feel like people are even more in my space than they ever used to be. Either that or maybe just like my barometer for personal space is totally different and maybe I just wouldn't have cared before. But now I'm like, I would be like sitting there, I would be standing back kind of looking at a display patiently, and there would be like a family with 2 or 3 kids who are all like, you know, crowded in that space looking, and I would be patiently waiting, and then someone else would come up behind me, like some family with a couple more kids, and then when the family in front of me moved away, I would go step up to the display to look at it, and the fucking family behind me would just let their kids crowd into the space. And I'm like, okay, so I stood here and waited patiently, but you all are gonna be all up in my personal space? Like, yeah, I actually don't like people anymore. When social distancing first started, I was like, people actually respecting personal space? I could get used to this. Yeah, people lost their social skills over quarantine, maybe. I don't know. It's insane to me, though. It really is bothersome. I wonder how much damage COVID did to the social behaviors of kids, especially as it relates to other people. Okay, like, I just feel like so few, like, restrictions were actually observed in the United States that I can't imagine that there were any real ramifications to how social interaction works between children. Like, if anything, the damage that COVID would have done to social behaviors would be to make children more standoffish and less likely to enter your personal space. But no, these children are like, I'm fully going to walk directly in front of you and like try to like worm in between you and the person in front of you, because for some reason you're leaving enough space for a person to fit between you and the person ahead of you. Like, it was really upsetting. I'm like, I'm trying to like give myself a little bit of space, and the expectation in this aquarium apparently is to crowd up against each other, and it was very upsetting. I almost like, I would have left early, like in the middle of the walkthrough, except that the exits were only emergency exits. Like, I genuinely went to an exit thinking that it might be a regular exit, like in the middle of the whole exhibit. And like it's a pathway. You're supposed to like, you walk over here and you kind of look around this whole room, but then that room leads only into one other room, and you're supposed to go like from point A to point B. And yeah, like in the middle of it, I was like, I have to leave. I was like, there's too many people. These people are inconsiderate, and I'm going to leave. But the exit was like an emergency only exit, so I had to stay. It sucked. It was not a good time. I'm like actually upset with my decision. Most important question though, Lux, did you see fun fishes? I think that the most fun fishes that I saw were, there were some adolescent stingrays that were pretty cute. Oh, I saw some seahorses too. Seahorses were good. Yeah, true, Mama Mephistopheles. Yeah, I don't think well of people anymore. I did go to the aquarium. Yes. I am not as pleased with the decision as I was hoping I would be. I think I should have gone at like a Monday at 9 a.m. and that would have been the only acceptable time to be at the aquarium, because I felt rushed. I just constantly felt like I was being rushed by the people behind me, no matter how patient I was being for the people in front of me. So it sucked, actually. It's like camping. Like, I went camping and I went to the aquarium and I'm like trying these new things, and it fucking has consistently sucked so far. Anyway. Saturdays are going to be full of peoples. Yeah, I also didn't think about the fact that it's the end of spring break. So there, like, the enormous number of children there was wild. But yeah, and I just didn't like the aquarium itself that much either. Hello, Baphomet. Best time I ever had at a zoo was during a work day I had off, because going during a weekday meant you would only run into the odd mom with her stroller. Yeah, exactly, Gayfesh. I think that that's the way to do this in the future. I think that's the thing that we need to do, is go during the week. I would have gone to a botanical garden, but it's just too early. I'm like looking at the trees outside, and I'm like, it's a little bit too early. End of spring break. It was -2 this morning. You could have fooled me. I know, it's fucking cold. Like, it was snowing this week again. I'm so annoyed. Okay, so we are going to be starting up this group stream thing here in just a second. Riverboat Jack has joined the wrong voice channel, I believe. So, hello, Anansi. I'm not having a great day. I'm on my period, and it fucking really hurts. My mom just walked 2 miles at our botanical garden. What's happening today? We're doing a progressive victory panel. We're only going to be here for like an hour or an hour and a half. I'm really fucking tired and feel bad, so I'm really only doing this because I said that I was going to. Which means we may or may not stream tomorrow, depending on how shitty I feel. Anyone holding the bad stream hostage again? Not so far today. Today is politics, no matter what you say, because I've joined the Progressive Victory Discord, and that's what we're doing today. But yeah, it's like snowing and shit here again. Although the grass is finally starting to come up and be green, so that's cool. I'm excited for that. But yeah, that means like probably maybe even next weekend, there's a botanical garden in Kansas City that has like an orchids, and I might go next week or something to go to that. It's a little bit less expensive than the aquarium. So it's like it cost me $25 to just walk through with a bunch of annoying fucking children everywhere in a place without any significant like greenery in the tanks. Like it's just like the saddest the saddest version of an aquarium, honestly. I was expecting it to be cooler than it was. I have not replanted my herb garden this year, but a big parsley plant has already sprouted. It is certainly getting warmer earlier. Oh my god, excuse me. Burping? No. Okay. We're amping up. We're amping up to go in. So here, the reason why, y'all, that must be mind-numbing. That's what I'm saying. I was like not super pleased with how restrictive the lives of the fish are in these spaces. And it's like they just swim around because there's nothing else for them to do all day. There's no like enrichment. Every time you hit the like button, you make me feel a little hurt inside and decrease the chance of me making fake drama for the funnies, says Anansi. But I got a couple of cool pictures. Oh, my favoriteest thing that it was in there, the coolest thing, was there were some jellyfish, and the jellyfish, I think that the light in their tank was red. And I don't know exactly what the deal was, but they were really like shockingly bright red jellyfishes. And I got a couple pictures of those. Also got to see a manta ray swimming over top, because we had a couple of those places in the aquarium where the fishes can swim above you, and you always love their cute little faces, you know, the little manta ray faces. I love wild sea life. I would really like to go to an aquarium that had like bioactive aquariums. Do you know what I mean? Like, they clearly like sanitize things, and there's all of the like coral and shit in there is clearly fake, you know. The plants in there are fake. Let's get some real plants in there. Sea life is just so fucking beautiful. They really are pretty. There was a fish that was like swimming at the surface of the water, and like it had a fin on its back that like, so the fin is like this way normally, like it's on top of their back or whatever. It's back there. It was going like at the surface of the water. It was weird. I don't know what kind of fish it was because I didn't look at it. We're having issues with getting permissions and stuff, apparently. Riverboat Jack continues to be in the wrong voice chat. Triggerfish? Is that what it is? And there was a whole bunch of stuff in there about like environmentalism and like, you know, we want you to think about the oceans and not litter and things like this. And it's like, okay, well, make the attraction in here cooler then. I don't know, man. Just curmudgeonly. Is it a triggerfish? Let me look it up. I don't think so. Or maybe there's like 40 different species of these. Maybe I don't know. It had like a weird, like, it almost had like a couple horn looking things on its head. Like it just had like a couple of protrusions sticking up like this. And that like that part of its face was above the surface of the water as it's like going around. It was super weird. I also have no idea if the sound that I'm making is translating through the microphone at all. Squidward Lux. I mean, true. When will you be yelling at people to get off the commune's lawn? Listen, y'all, I don't think I like people enough to be a member of a commune either. Truly, like, I am starting to feel like I'm so burnt out on being around other human beings that I'm not even sure that I would be a good neighbor in the commune. Google unicorn tang. Not quite. This fish was like yellowish, like a goldenrod yellowish color. And it had a broad face, like it was a broad, not like a horn like this, but it was like broad. I don't know how to describe. I should have looked it up, but there were a stressful number of people in the vicinity. Okay, we might be getting ready to actually get in here soon. Today, if you type !donate in the website chat, it will give you the links to the campaigns and stuff that we're going to be discussing today. You say that, Lux, but you know there are like the majority of folks who are way more unsuited to commune life. Yeah, I guess the thing is that I haven't actually met very many people who would be suited to commune life, even amongst leftists, for sure. You can join the curmudgeon commune. This is why my commune will definitely have single digits. Unicorn Tang and immediately thought unicorn pussy. How dare you, Baphomet? Longhorn cowfish. I mean, kind of, yeah. They were like shorter, but like, yeah, more or less. Yeah, do these guys have like a... Do they have like... I want like a video of one. Longhorn cowfish. Because I want a video to see if it does the little thingy with its fin. Longhorn cowfish. Let me see you swimming around. I'm gonna mute you. I don't want to hear you. Its fin was like... Oh, no, I mean, I guess that's pretty close. So it was kind of like this. But like he would... Yeah, so... I feel like the horn things were shorter. Like, yeah, they were... I don't know. They weren't so long. And they were like... He was like swimming on the surface of the water with his like... Yeah, this is closer. But I feel like the fin was like further up their back. That's like close though. I wonder if I'd be able to... Did I take a picture of that was clear enough? Because I thought that I tried to get pictures of him. Oh yeah, I took pictures for my Safe for Work Fansly earlier. And I need to edit those so that I can upload them. Why are my pictures not here? Can you please upload them to the cloud? Upload my pictures to the cloud, please? Apparently it's going to take 12 years. Well, okay, apparently it doesn't automatically do that when I get back on the Wi-Fi. That's always cool. Okay. Yeah, so Jack and one other person are just like in the other channel, even though someone said that we were going to be streaming in a different channel. So maybe I'll just join over there and be like, hey guys, I thought that this was not where we're supposed to be. But anyway, what's up, Lily? Dolphin cow hybrids. Did you get to pet the stingrays? I did not. There was only one area with petting stuff, and it was like really shallow, so I think it was probably just like, I think it was probably just little tiny stuff, and also the line for touching things was like super long. And I was like, oh, this is too many people. All right, I guess I'll join this voice thing, even though this is not the right one. But okay, let's do it.
Like, obviously, if you want to join in this sort of thing, then you got to make sure that, you have the mental energy to do it. But, just... I find it such a rewarding experience because it's just something where, even if I'm going weekend after weekend or week after week like I did for my thing, it really makes a difference in how many people you can contact in that amount of time.
Yeah. Well, and how many people would you say that you talked with when you were doing your canvas?
Oh gosh.
I know. Sorry to throw that out there at you.
Oh my gosh. No, I just have to dig into my brain 10 years back. Easily hundreds, because I volunteered for phone banking, for whichever weeks I could do it. And this was for the period of like several years. So, easily hundreds of people that I got in touch with by phone banking. And then, around several neighborhoods worth of people when I did canvassing. A handful of times I did it. So, so even with one person, you can get in touch with that many people and get the message out there. So just imagine a whole team of people doing that.
Yeah, no, like it's actually remarkable how effective like even a very small team of people can be. One of the things we saw when we were working with Progressive Victory last year for the midterms was that basically like a highly dedicated group of about 25 people can like do so much work in getting people to turn out to vote. It's honestly incredible.
And I mean, really, for this kind of effort, it's super important because this is one of those races that could literally define a generation of policy in Wisconsin, since we're talking about terms of 20 years that these folks are being elected onto the Wisconsin Supreme Court for. So, it could be that we're in our middle ages by the time that, we would have another shot at working to get the right person on the Supreme Court of Wisconsin to make a difference.
Yeah. By the way, again, one of the things that was a bit off about some of the info that I shared with y'all is that the term limits are actually 10 years. But even so, 10 years is, well, that's a long time. That's the difference between
so scary.
Like a newborn baby and like someone who can't shut up about Roblox. Okay, like that's a significant period of time.
True.
Hey, Luxander, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm here to be the bearer of unfortunate news, and that's that we're supposed to be in the other voice chat.
Oh, gotcha. I see it. All right, I'm gonna hop over there.
And we're back.
We are back. Hello. Oh no, we lost Kevin.
Oh no, Kevin, come back.
What happened? Kevin,
no. Come back.
No, okay, there we go. We thought we lost you, Kevin.
Oh no, I never get lost. I always.
Luxander, welcome. Can you introduce yourself a little bit and say hi?
Hello, everybody. I'm Luxander. I use they, them pronouns most of the time, and I've just been like hanging out with the Progressive Victory folks and helping out every once in a while since the election cycle last year. I think the stuff that we do here is like really important for harm reduction purposes. So I'm here for the support. I'm all in. I talk about politics on my website, which is luxander.net. If you want to join over there sometime.
Very, very nice. So yeah, we have come together today, and we should have some other people joining as we go. I know that Sock Dunn Left said that he would show up, or that they would show up in a bit. We'll see.
It was only Thursday.
See what happens. There were a lot of
Thursday
people
that I
who
was
said
banned.
yes, but then didn't confirm like with the final details. So just kind of like we'll see how many people show up, I guess. But later on we should also be joined by Vosh. So we'll have a lot of people here to talk about the importance of this race and get people motivated to get out and canvass, donate, or phone bank. Because guess what? The more people who donate means we have more infrastructure on the ground to support more volunteers, right? Which is really important because out-of-state volunteers, it's really hard to get out-of-state volunteers if you don't have like a place for them to stay and food for them to eat,
Literally.
And on top of that, you also need to volunteer for the canvassing, and you also
Seahorses.
do have the option, and we'll go harder on this in future streams, to phone bank, okay? And you can access those with !donate, !canvas, !phone bank. So those are the three commands you should keep in mind. And
they're all one command on my
folks,
website.
if you could, my fellow streamers, if you could add those commands as well to your streams, I'd be very, very grateful.
Oh, absolutely. I know I added the donate one. It's funny because I've spoken with you at length for the past couple days,
Yeah, I'm
and I
discoursing
told
with
you
normies.
about the derp factor that comes into anything I do. I need to add the phone banking and canvassing links as command, so I will do that during the stream. But
Excellent.
I mean, honestly, all three of those things are super important because, obviously, you got to do. I guess like each of these options emphasizes a different skill that people can employ because if maybe they're not comfortable with cold calling people and work better in face to face interactions and you're able to do this, then canvassing would be the best option. But if you can crank out calls and have conversations with multiple people about why this matters, then, phone banking is the way to go. And of course, if you have the resources, donations also help immensely.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Um, and on top of that, I just do want to point out, just in the interest of like, covering our behinds legally, um, if you are a U.S. citizen, you can donate, but you can volunteer from anywhere in the world. Okay, anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. You can volunteer to phone bank. You can volunteer to canvas. You just can't be compensated financially for either of those two things. And you cannot donate to U.S. elections. So keep that in mind.
As an attorney, I endorse what Jack just said.
Yes. If you are, again, just to clarify, again, only U.S. citizens donate, and anyone can volunteer. There you go. So
Be good, y'all.
yeah. Behave. I feel I legally covered our butts on that one, so we good to go from there.
Yes, we don't need to subject anybody here to legal liability because legal liability is the worst.
It's not fun.
No, it's not. I see that on a day-to-day basis with the kind of work I do, so I'd rather that we avoid that. So keep that in mind, and everyone will be happy, chat.
Well, we have about 10 minutes here to talk a little bit about the election and kind of what's at stake before Pondering Politics hops on to talk about like his experience on the ground. So, with the time we have, why is this election important, guys?
Well, redistricting is something that I'm interested in, particularly as a Kansan who they recently confirmed are hella gerrymandered districts. There's going to be a review of the redistricting in Wisconsin coming up here soon. And so, like, the Supreme Court, like the state Supreme Court, is the group that is in charge of determining whether those lines are good or not, whether they're gerrymandered or not. So having a Supreme Court that is like has one swing vote on it right now is kind of problematic. So if we can ensure that that spot is Democratic and like Democratic leaning for the most part, like, oh God, I cannot remember how to pronounce her name, but there is like, yeah, that particular...
Our candidate.
Yeah, what is her name? I had it in my notes and I am just unable to read right now.
Our candidate.
Janet Protasiewicz.
Janet, yeah, Janet Protasiewicz, yeah. So she is the one that we are trying to get in on this because, like, in particular, you don't want to have swing states that are super hella gerrymandered. Like, this is part of the idea of elections working the way that they're supposed to, is if your districts are actually written in a way that you're capable of swaying elections, that would be great.
Yeah, and when it comes to Wisconsin, Wisconsin is arguably one of the most gerrymandered states in the entire country, to the point where like, and I'm here are the official numbers. Okay, according to a state democracy research report, Republicans. With only 50% of the vote, Republicans win 64.8% of the seats. And with 50% of the vote in Wisconsin, Democrats only win 35.2% of the vote. Literally just a world of difference with the same number of votes. And this is all currently on the table to be changed to a much more nonpartisan map if Janet Protasiewicz wins. Okay, so this has implications not just for the state government of Wisconsin, but also in national elections. Because remember, the state majorities and the state legislatures get to dictate how elections are run within the state, and the Republican legislature in 2024 will do everything that it can to make sure that the election is weighted in a certain direction, and it's not going to be the direction that helps progressives. We'll say that much. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
And I mean, the thing about gerrymandering too is that it's such a solidly political issue that it's led a lot of courts like the Supreme Court of the United States to not really want to touch it, under this thing called the political question doctrine, where, under the guise of respect for the oh my gosh, the separation of powers, they often say, oh, well, for things that aren't blatantly racial gerrymandering, we're not going to touch this question because it should be up to the states to determine how to, redistrict themselves, so long as it's not racist. But, as both of you know, throughout American history, gerrymandering, just like any other form of insidious discrimination, has been used to replace more overt and outward forms of discrimination. And, so partisan gerrymandering, as in like redistricting based on what the parties want in their voter bases, can still have disparate results in that respect, where large groups of people are disenfranchised for seemingly no reason. So that's why it's incredibly important that we have to change how gerrymandering occurs, especially in Wisconsin, which, as you guys said, is like one of the most gerrymandered states, if not the most, in the entire nation.
And have we talked about the 0-week abortion ban? Like, have we talked about that at all?
Nope, we haven't even the first thing we brought up here was talking about the gerrymandering, but like, yeah, abortion, trans rights, so many other things are on the table here that are yet to be decided in Wisconsin. So take it away.
Yeah, no, just specifically, like, there is a very old law. This is so weird how we do this thing where we all have super old laws that just kind of like stop being enforced after a while, and then some crazy, it's like sodomy laws. Like some crazy person decides, like, we're gonna start enforcing sodomy laws again because they're still technically on the books.
Which is, by the way, completely wild, because if you actually look at those old sodomy laws, they're used primarily to discriminate against gay people, obviously, but it also includes like oral sex.
Yeah, every time
when they talk about the sodomy laws. So like I don't know, pretty much all straight people, I guess, are sodomites these days.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is why a lot of cases throughout our history focus on laws like that could apply to everybody, but are just used against a specific group. And that's why, well, I don't want to go off on too far of a tangent. If you leave me to ramble, I will.
We're all streamers. We're good at that.
Yeah, we are. So, yeah, no, there are these old laws on the books in Wisconsin that essentially make, like, no leeway for any abortion whatsoever in the state. It's pretty heinous. And not only that, but if any laws get passed to like change that or challenge that, the current law in the books could be used as like precedent to be like, nah, actually.
And that's based on the interpretation of the law, which is always in the hands of the courts. And in this case, the state Supreme Court, they're going to be the ones who are deciding whether this law from 1849, 0-week abortion ban, like whether that has any bearing on how abortion should be handled in the modern day. And as we know, a lot of the types of people who get on courts lately are quite regressive about constitutionality. Like we lost Roe v. Wade because of people who very strictly interpret the Constitution in an unpleasant way. So we need people who are going to be making favorable interpretations while in the meantime we're still working on the legislation here.
Yeah,
Oh, girl, I have so many things to say about that.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
just
yeah.
because you're
Go for it.
oh, because you're absolutely right. Because I was studying a forum where just they had all the candidates before. Two of the candidates dropped out of the race, and we had a 1v1 matter. But I was listening to what everybody was saying when they said that they would uphold the Wisconsin Constitution and they would be impartial and fair judges, while serving their tenures. But all I could really think of, especially with Judge Kelly, in the way that he gave his answers to a lot of the questions that was posed to him, he was very non-specific in a lot of respects, and he gave a lot of empty platitudes. Like, oh, I will be impartial. I will follow the Constitution. Blah blah blah. But this reminds me so much of the confirmation hearings for the conservative Supreme Court justices on the federal level.
Can I hop in real quick?
Yes.
So folks who have no baseline of knowledge in this election, currently the election is between two different candidates who went through a primary process, and these candidates are Janet Protasewicz, who is our the progressive left-leaning pick in the election. The other option is a man named Daniel Kelly, who may have a slight edge in the election, which is why we need as many of you to get out there to volunteer as possible, due to the fact that he was temporarily serving on the Wisconsin State Supreme Court for about 4 years, and then lost bid for a full seat in 2020. So with that, sorry to interrupt you. Just wanted to give that background.
Oh no, context is always good. I mean, when you had the confirmation hearing of justices like Clarence Thomas or Amy Coney Barrett or Judge Kavanaugh, when they were asked pointed questions about controversial issues like Roe v. Wade, they said, well, that's precedent, stare decisis, we would leave that alone. But as soon as the fuckers got an opportunity to do anything about that, and they heard Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health, I think that's what the name of that case is. They overturned Roe v. Wade based on precedent going as far back in English law as like the 1300s to make its justification. Something that was just outside of the bounds of what any legal expert understood the constitutional analysis to be at the time. So I saw very similar answers coming from the conservative judges in this race, and it just makes me very wary because they know the game that they got to play in getting these Supreme Court appointments, and then they'll follow through with whatever their donors tell them to do, which is why this is so important.
Yeah, no, there's an awful lot of this is an issue that's been going on for a while now. As politics have been inundated by ever more lobbying money, just more and more and more and more. That has also carried over into the courts. Like the courts have typically been kind of viewed by the public in the U.S. as being fairly impartial and like separate from the typical political processes at work. But that's not really true anymore. In fact, the Wisconsin State Supreme Court election this year is currently, I believe, the most expensive or has the most money spent on it than any other judicial election in history in the United States.
Which tells you that they think it's important, so we should think so too.
Yeah. And they got the money. Republicans got the money. So we need to have the people power. That's the only way we can win when it comes to elections like this. So that's why we're trying to get you out to volunteer, folks.
Yeah, I mean, that's why books like Dark Money matter so much, because It's the exact same issue that's plagued any other American election, and I guess it's just weird being an attorney from a state where judges are not elected, but they're appointed. Just to see the concept of judges running for any kind of position, let alone a judgeship. So I guess for me, what is just so jarring about this is the amount of money that comes into this thing, and I guess them still having the expectation that, when they're appointed to the court, and if they have a case brought before them on the Supreme Court level where some of their political donors are there as a party, how can you really imagine that they'll keep up the veneer of impartiality if, in Judge Kelly's case, the conservative pick, he also doesn't believe in recusal as a thing, where he just takes himself off the case due to a conflict of interest. So
Yeah.
God.
I just see.
Yeah.
No, he's against that because he's like, well, we're grown people, and we should be able to tell the difference. We should be able to be the impartial judge and put everything aside so we can look at the law and look at the case and decide things in a judgely manner. So again, non-specific, baseless platitudes that don't really mean anything when you look at the larger context of how these elections usually go.
Dang. It's just that, yeah, like it's also just a lot more blatant, it seems like, than we've typically seen. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Looks like we have Richard. Hello. Okay, wait.
Yeah, so
I'm so confused.
it's a bit confusing. So this is on. So Richard is one of the leads for the Progress Libs with Milwaukee operation in Maya's absence, and we're using his Discord. I'm Ruminate. My YouTube channel is Pondering Politics, and my real name is Josiah. So we've got like 7 different names. Sorry for the confusion about that. Just call me whatever you want. Hey, you will suffice.
It's good that you've allied with trans people, because same. I got so many names.
Yeah. I feel like I want to get to the point where it's like 1 per day of the week, and right now I'm at 4.
You just rotate.
Right, and I just took Richard's name, so I'm gonna have to like appropriate 3 more. So if you have any suggestions at any point, throw them my
You're a
way.
fae. You're just stealing people's names now.
Listen, I feel like he loaned it to me. Let's say that. I'm not stealing. I'm loaning. He's loaning it to me for the duration of this.
Whatever you have to tell yourself.
Technicalities, I love it. I
know. I should have gone to law school, right? That wasn't bad BS, was it?
I mean, it is a very
No.
fae thing to do the rules lawyering, so you're staying on brand so far.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Join me in the dark arts.
I'm having so
Yes.
much
Wait,
fun.
wait.
I don't know this person at all. I'm just
Are any of
fucking
you
I'm an
around.
attorney.
Oh.
Yeah, you
Wow.
better watch yourself.
Are you billing us right now? I feel like we're being billed, everybody. Nowhere has he said we're not being billed.
I mean,
That's true. You haven't.
look, you haven't signed a retainer agreement, so I'm not allowed to say how much I'm charging you as of yet.
Oh, no.
Let's just say that. I'll send you the bill at the end of the stream.
Oh God! All right. Hey, send it to Richard because again, I'm using Richard's account. Okay, so send it to Richard and he'll take care of it. As a matter of fact, you can send Riverboat Jack's bill to Richard, Luxander's bill to Richard, and mine. He'll cover it all.
I wasn't even aware that we could send bills.
Sounds like a deal, though.
Yeah.
That does sound like a deal. I love making deals on behalf of other people. Those are the best kind of deals to make. Well, hey everybody. This is the first time I'm meeting, I think, all of you. So I'm Josiah. That's my real name, like Messiah, but with a J. So Josiah. you take that, you do that, whatever you want. I used to go by Ruminate. I am for whatever degree this counts for anything or is held against me, just putting it out there. I am a Destiny Orbiter, so that's the name that I used at the time. I've got a YouTube channel called Pondering Politics, but you can just call me Josiah.
Sounds good. So, like, how long have you been on the ground in Wisconsin?
So I actually flew in. So today's Saturday. So I flew in yesterday morning, and we've done shifts since I got here. It has been
Like
a
that
lot of
razor
walking,
mouse.
a lot of driving, because of course it's brutally cold at the moment here in the Badger State. Inclement weather, 17 degrees this morning, wind chill. Like I can't even imagine. Like my face may look red from the frostbite and the wind bite and everything, but it's been a
cold
blur.
run. It's been a cold
Very.
run up there.
Yeah.
Um, so
I thought you were just naturally a pleasant shade of pink.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Aw.
That's my natural complexion. My psoriasis, and now I'm insecure about it. Thank you.
Oh no.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh no!
Yeah.
How many houses? So I always ask this. How many places have you knocked on? How many people have you talked to?
So I can't speak for everybody, but the lists that we've been doing, I think, are like 50, approximately 50 at a time. And so
I don't have any
we
more water.
did
Shoot.
2 lists yesterday, 4 lists today, like our group. And I'm not good at math, so it's 6 sets of 50. We'll ballpark it.
Okay. Has that been like have you, does it seem like you've reached a lot of people, like got them to change their minds, or like
You know,
motivate them to get out?
I like to think I motivated them. I hopefully motivate them to actually like turn up instead of like motivating them to change their registration to Republican. Hopefully like I motivated them in the right direction. But the vast majority of doors we knock on, I mean, just this is part of it. Most people are not home, or if they are home, they're pretending that they're not. But every interaction that I have had
Hard relate,
has
though.
been positive. These are people who are aware of the situation and the stakes here in Wisconsin. And I think, even though like it benefits them, or like it impacts them in their backyard, but I think they're also cognizant of the broader impacts that this race will have on the rest of the country. So I think that everyone that we have reached out to, at least in my experience, they have been motivated to get out. They've either early voted already for Judge Protasevich, Judge Janet, or they've got their ballot. They're intending to turn it in because you have till April 2nd to do early voting, or they plan to get out there on April 4th and pull that lever, metaphorically speaking, for her.
Yeah. Well, and it's not. So when people think about canvassing, I think a lot of folks who haven't done it before think it's almost like you're going out to houses at random, just like, we're going this way today and that way tomorrow. But the Wisconsin Democratic Party identified around 700,000 voters that they're interested in contacting in order to make sure that they are more likely to turn out. So like, you when you say like you've been like going and doing 50 like per day, or sets of 50
per list, yeah.
per list, is that like the people you are talking with?
Yeah,
Like
so
in a
it's
given area?
it's a curated list to the best of my ability. So what's funny is about Wisconsin is their registration, it's nonpartisan, so you have no opportunity, and you may have covered this in the first 30 minutes, and if I'm
We did not.
repeating something you've already talked about, just feel free to tell me to shut up and move on. But
You're good.
they don't offer an opportunity for you to register with a party when you register. So like it makes curating lists a lot harder, right? So the people here in Milwaukee and in Wisconsin who are affiliated with the Democratic Party have to like go above and beyond to try to create curated lists so that canvassers can maximize their time, effort, and energy. Right, because like you said, it's not like you're going door to door random selling Girl Scout cookies, or asking people if they've heard the good news as a Jehovah's Witness. You're not doing that. You're trying to maximize your time, and maximize Democratic turnout. And so that's kind of what was interesting to me is I expected that at least some of the people who would answer the door would basically tell me to F off or something like that, because we had no guarantee that they would be Democrat. But every interaction has been extremely positive.
Really?
Yeah.
Is
Knock on
there?
wood.
So no one like answered the door with like a shotgun, being like, get off my property.
Not yet. And I was kind of hoping, was it Winnie the Pooh where they talk about the land of milk and honey? I had this conception of Wisconsin as the land of like beer and cheese, and so I feel like guns go with that. I was expecting at some point to hear like a cock and go get off my lawn. Never heard it. Everybody was super chill.
All right. And
That's actually really cool.
that is really cool. Can you tell us a little bit like where because I assume it's like area based, right? Like where have you been canvassing? Like
So
around
so
Milwaukee?
we've been in Milwaukee, and I live in North Carolina. This is my first time in Wisconsin, so I can't. Outside of that '70s show, my knowledge of Wisconsin is extremely limited. So I can't tell you like what neighborhoods we've been in, but it's been Milwaukee.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Oh, go for it.
I was just gonna say, I guess when you were talking about having difficulty in really curating lists since they don't have a partisan registration there, what would be the types of voters that you're trying to really reach and talk to? Because I imagine you don't want to be talking to people who already agree with you,
Well,
who
actually,
already have a solid vote.
so what's interesting is, and I'm speaking on behalf of people who have better knowledge and expertise in this respect because I just get the list, right? So the benefit
Yeah.
of Progress Libs and Progressive Victory is that they're interfacing with the local parties to come up with these lists. So in many cases, we're just getting the lists and being the feet on the ground. And my understanding is that actually no, their goal is just that. Their goal is to try to maximize Democratic or liberal leaning turnout. This is not so much like a really big change my mind event or change your mind event where we're going to
Right.
swing voters. If we can catch them, like if we knock on a door and somebody's like, hey, somehow a conversation develops, which isn't always the case, but let's say one does, and they make it clear, either explicitly or implied, that they're not sure where they stand on it, then that certainly gives you the opportunity to have a conversation with them and try to persuade them. Listen, Judge Janet, she is a former assistant district attorney, so she has prosecuted criminals before. She's a because if you want to appeal to the strong law and order types, right? If they seem kind of centristy, she's also a district court judge. She has strong pro-choice, commitments, things like that. So you have some things to work with to try to persuade them. But for the most part, we're trying to get liberals and Democrats to just make sure they know to turn up. Is my
Right.
Can can you walk us through kind of like what the process was like to actually volunteer for if somebody's sitting at home right now and they're like, well, maybe I'd volunteer, but I have no idea what what that entails, like especially because you have the experience of coming in from out of state. If people want to volunteer, like what is that like?
Also, I just want to add to that. Like, I'm curious how those conversations generally go. You said you're not really trying to persuade people. So I'm curious, like, most folks don't really know what canvassing is like. So when you knock on the door and they answer, like, is there a talking point you jumped straight to? Or, like, how does that kind of go? Is it usually pretty brief? All those kind of things?
So,
Yeah. Gonna lose my
to your
earbud.
question first, I will say that I might be a bad example for this because I usually don't stick to a script, but Progress Libs and Progressive Victory are really, really good about providing you resources in terms of information about the candidates and indeed even a script that you can refer to if you want to. Now, it's probably pretty off-putting to have your phone up and say, dear sir or madam, but if you in between doors, if you want to refer to it, and it gives you like conversational prompts and how to respond if then else. But the conversations are usually pretty brief. Now, we've got some people here that we were canvassing with during these lists, and they were actually having like 5 to 10 minute conversations, which may not seem very long. But when a stranger's coming up, knocking on the door and saying, hey, will you come out and vote? A 5 to 10 minute conversation seems like extremely long. Most of my conversations with them are fairly brief, right? Because I don't want to be off-putting to them. I don't want to take up too much of their time. But if they signal that they're interested to keep going, like if they ask questions, then I'll be there all day if need be. But yeah, so I just try to like read the room. Based on the things they say, based on how they say it. But for the most part, it's just like, they'll knock on the door, they'll answer, and most of the answers we've been getting are, yeah, I'm aware of this election. I've either turned in my ballot already, or I plan to go out on April 4th. So I feel like those situations are relatively few and far between where you're put on the spot and like you're answering a Jeopardy question.
Can I just as a quick follow-up?
Sure.
Like so when you're going into these, really all you're really expecting to do is kind of like both provide like some education and a reminder that this is happening, and also just demonstrate that like it's actually important enough that you are using your time to like go and remind people that it's happening. I feel like that kind of enforces or reinforces like the idea that like, well, maybe I should do that too. I should go and vote.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that's what I mean. Like most of the interactions have been so positive because you'll have people who will say nice things like, it's really cool that like when we encounter like older people, for example, they'll say things like it's really great that, you younger people are out, huffing it, going door to door and trying to increase turnout. And then I just remember that one of your questions was, or somebody had a question about how to volunteer. And I do want to say, my experience was a bit atypical because I'd already so I have a poli-sci background, so that's what I studied in college. I've always been kind of a C-SPAN geek. And when I was in college, I had a friend that I went to high school with who's a few years older than me, and he was involved in local politics. And so basically, it was just a lot of networking. I never had to be in the position of like, oh my God, I feel the urge to go out and be active, but I have absolutely no connection whatsoever. My recommendation is, especially if you have a social media presence, use the power of the search engine. Go to Google, and wherever you are, if you want to get involved in your local community, like if it's Milwaukee, be like, Milwaukee Democrats, and they usually have a website or a Facebook page or a Twitter page with all sorts of information. With Progress Libs and Progressive Victory, they obviously have a very strong social media presence. Maya is, she went viral going toe-to-toe with Charlie Kirk and dunking on him in public, which I think is a great thing to go viral for. So, like, they have these, like they have these outreach and this charisma, and they make it really easy for you to get involved.
Okay. So like walk us through like the actual physical steps, right? So like someone at home signs up to volunteer, they're out of state, and then they take off, they hit the road, right? They get in their car, they drive off to where this is happening. When they get to Milwaukee, what are they gonna find? Like, are they gonna have to like get a hotel, like get a motel, like what?
So
Walk us through this.
Hey Jack, you're muted on stream.
Ah, shit. Oops. But just to reiterate real quick, when people want to volunteer, they go out there, they hit the road, they go to Milwaukee. What happens next?
So I won't say that I can speak for every other canvassing operation. I can tell you with Progressive Victory and Progress
supposedly
Libs,
Vosh is going to be here today.
The situation is this: they go out of their way to.
I was going to quit early, but maybe if he's going to be on here, I'll hang out.
If you're making a commitment to travel to, like canvas out of state or whatever, where like lodging is important. Like in this case, they set up an Airbnb.
Yeah, I'm not watching her stream.
They went out of their way to try to, make the logistics as easy as possible. And of course, obviously, fundraising is important, right? These things aren't free, and it's very important that we try to get, contributions and donations where possible. But skilled organizers like Maya, like Elysium, and people like that, and the folks involved with Progressive Victory, they do as much of the work for you as possible. You've got to show up. There may be, if you want to participate in the Airbnb, which obviously is optional, you could go get a hotel if you wanted to. But there may be a fee of however much money, like for your participation of it, and then you're golden for the duration, that you're actually canvassing there. In terms of like transportation, so once you get there, they usually will have designated drivers, right? Because you don't want everybody, either Ubering or driving themselves. So they try to pack in as many people as possible. If there's like a particular local headquarters that we're affiliated with, so in this case there was Wisconsin Democrats, they have an office, I'm sure several in Milwaukee. We would go there, we'd get the literature, so the flyers, the forms, things like that, because of course you want to offer that stuff. It's almost like something again that a person can refer to. You can refer to on the fly. You can leave hanging on somebody's door if they don't answer. You get all that information. You get the lists. And then there's an app called Minivan, which Basically, it's like a Google Maps for where the designated houses are on that curated list. So you can punch it into a GPS. It's usually clustered by neighborhoods. Super convenient. Of course, in Wisconsin, it's really cold, so there is that. But for the most part, like when we were doing it with Progress Libs in North Carolina during the November midterms last year, it was nice. You got to walk around with people, go door to door. You're usually paired off. It's a really good group dynamic. It's super safe, super inclusive.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that sounds a lot less scary than I think a lot of people think. Like canvassing can be, right? Getting involved in your local political process.
Yeah, and I can't say that, it's not like you don't have the jitters. Like I consider myself a pretty extroverted person. There's still times I'm thinking, what if I say the wrong thing? What if there have been times where I've given the wrong candidate. So like in this case, we have Judge Protasevich, Judge Janet, and I have it in my mind, Daniel Kelly is the opponent, and we do not want this man to become a Supreme Court justice. I'm sure I have said, vote for Daniel Kelly as I'm handing Judge Janet literature. And then you're like, no, I don't mean that. I'm sorry, just kidding. So there will be, I think it's natural to have some sort of like trepidation along the way, but the canvassers and your peers, the people you're working with, they go a long way to making you as comfortable as you possibly can be.
Yeah. And also, do you have like a set like kind of spiel to like give? Can you give us like what you say when you walk up to one of the
what's the intro? Like they say hello and you like, well, how do you introduce?
I introduce my seven names. I start with that. No, so like typically again, so like what I do personally is if I knock at a door and I get somebody, I'll say their name because again, you get this information, right? Hopefully that person is still living there. We occasionally have a situation where it's like, hey, Richard. It's like, no, Richard actually moved a year ago. Oh, well, hey, Billy, and so you'll say, hey, and my name is Josiah. I'm working with Progress Libs or Progressive Victory or with the local canvassing operation, depending on how you want to play it. Because I try to offer like some variety. Say, well, I'm with a local canvassing operation. I'm out here knocking door to door because I want to remind people about a very important upcoming election. And I usually, again, have the flyers in my hand. April 4th, Wisconsin is going to elect its 7th Supreme Court justice. It's an extremely important election. Judge Janet was really deserving of your vote. Hope I can get you to come out. And then depending on how they respond, so if they say, again, yep, I'm already planning on voting, or if they may say, if they like show any sort of hesitancy, then I'll try to like prompt them with a question like, is there any information I can offer you about Judge Janet or her opponent, Daniel Kelly? And hopefully I don't get them backwards. And just kind of like almost, it's not like an NPC dialogue tree in my experience. You go based on what the other person says and just try to have a natural conversation while also being mindful of time, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to be off-putting to the other person. If they're like backing away through the door, you don't follow them in or anything like that. And just try to make it as chill as possible. Like you're talking to just another person without like an objective, even though you have one. That's my advice.
And you mentioned being aware of time. How long do these conversations typically take?
So for me, I don't know. Like again, we've got some people.
I feel like we're being a little bit repetitive here.
When they do have conversations, it seems like they're able to have 5 to 10 minute conversations. We got a guy here, Sam. He's like the number of times we're like, where is Sam? Where'd he go? And he's like either like in the doorway, like because they kind of like invite him in, like, yeah, step out of the cold. Let's talk about Judge Janet. Yeah, like so like you'll have situations where it's like 5 to 10 minutes. But for me, it's usually like once we get face to face, like once they open the door, probably 2 minutes tops. It's like pretty.
Because you want to make sure that you hit as many doors as you can. So you wouldn't want to stick around too long, but it's still good to have a conversation of one.
Yeah, I've had a website for like a year. Thanks to it's good to see you here. You've clearly been here before because you have the special color name.
Way to, like again, like even though they give you a lot of literature to refer to, they can give you scripts and tips and whatnot. It's not like they give you like a stopwatch. Yes. Like nobody's behind you saying, "Oh my God, you went 30 minutes over your allotted quota" or anything like that. So it really is like this organic sense of
I'm terrible.
Just reading the room.
about forgetting stuff like this too.
Is
So
there
no
more
worries.
opportunity to talk? Or again, man, have I been here too long? Even if they're willing to keep me here, because I'm sure there've been situations like that where they're like, let's keep talking politics, and you're like, I gotta go to the next door. So you just, you kind of gently extricate yourself from the situation and go on to the next door.
Okay, yeah, that does sound an awful lot more organic than I think a lot of people might initially assume about like the canvassing process.
I think a lot more people have those skills than they think do. Like I'm like
Yeah.
listening to this and going, yeah, my like 6 years of working at a gas station would be perfect for this momentary conversation. Or anybody who's ever done sales before. It sounds like it's a lot more people are capable than are probably prepared for this. Like we're not out here trying to debate people. We're not out here trying to like have 20-minute conversations with blood sports or anything. Like we're just trying to remind people that an election's upcoming and that it's important.
Absolutely. And if I had a nickel for every time I've asked somebody if it's unleaded or leaded in a conversation like that, I'd have $1. No, but like for real, no, you're 100% correct. Like just the ability to talk to other people. Like you don't even have to be, in my opinion, like an extreme extrovert. You really don't. There are people who canvass here. As a matter of fact, there are many people who have been canvassing in this particular group that if you ask them, they will tell you, I'm an introvert by nature. I never imagined I'd be doing this. And not one of them, to my knowledge, has run back to headquarters in tears like, oh my God, I had just the most mortifying social experience of my life. It's so well prepared, and you feel so supported, again, in terms of the information, in terms of other people, right? Like you will typically look and see if they're not physically with you going door to door, they're across the street knocking on doors themselves, that even introverts have had a relatively easy time with this.
Okay, so you go up to a door, right?
Mm-hmm.
And someone asks you, why should I not vote for Daniel Kelly? Like what's wrong with Daniel Kelly? Like he's a judge, right? One judge is as good as another, right?
Judge. Yeah.
What
No,
do you say?
I would probably not do that. I'd be tempted to. I've not run into that situation in this particular thing. I guess it depends on how he would ask, or he or she would ask the question. If they seem combative,
Destiny Orbiter says he or she.
Question, I might try to respond with a question like, well, what do you expect out of a judge? Do you expect a judge, for example, to support the Constitution? Well, Daniel Kelly, we know, is credibly linked to a plot with Donald Trump to, proffer a fake elector scheme to try to steal the election from Joe Biden. Now, I think we can all agree, Republican, Democrat, conservative, or liberal, a free and fair election is a free and fair election, and a judge who's supposed to be impartial should respect that. I would probably say I'd BS something like that, or try to do it, again, depending on how that person engaged. I might use different words, or I might, be more monotone or whatever, but I would try to express that sentiment because I don't know necessarily what their issues are. You may end up, Judge Janet is pro-choice, right? That's one of the commitments that she's made, is that she believes in a woman's right to choose. Whereas Daniel Kelly, in his past, he is pro-forced birth.
He introduced himself as a Destiny Orbiter when he joined the call.
So you may run into a person who asks that question, and they may be pro-life. So you may want to,
such a weird thing to do.
What are some of your stances? And you would try to find some way to align Judge Janet with their stances. That's what I would try to do if I were in that situation.
And I imagine that they're trying to prepare you all to speak positively about Janet and not really preparing you with talking points of like why the other candidate is bad. Like I mean, I think psychologically that it tends to be more effective to focus on you don't want to say the other candidate's name too many times. You don't want to make that brain flub too many times where they're thinking about him. We're trying to say, hey, Janet is good for this reason, and just trying to worm it into like, how is this individual going to agree with her?
Absolutely, and that is so. What's interesting about
this is Progressive Victory or Progress Libs?
It's probably a good
Progress
thing I haven't
Libs.
run into that situation.
Here, check the links, y'all.
Personally, part of the motivation for me coming out isn't just. It's
Those are
not just
all
an affirmative case for Judge
the
Janet.
info notes.
I live in North Carolina. For me, the significance of this election and why I think all eyes should be on it. And I don't know if any of you live in Wisconsin or you're Wisconsin
Damn it,
adjacent,
Janet. I
is
vote
because
for
this
you.
particular election has like sweeping consequences for the rest of the country. So for me, what motivated me to come out there is not necessarily because I'm a Judge Janet fanboy. It's I know the threat of somebody like Daniel Kelly, and this is an opportunity to take a state which is, look, you look at Pew Research, and I think they say that like the population of Wisconsin is relatively 50-50. If you look at its political history, it's strongly bipartisan. I mean, they've got the Democratic governor and a Republican supermajority in the Senate. They voted for Obama 2 terms. They voted for Trump in 2016.
It's kind of both.
And then Biden again in 2020. So this is a state that has a very rich bipartisan history. And if we were to elect or to keep a conservative from replacing Patience Rockenbach, I think is the name of the judge who's retiring, this has an opportunity to really make an impact on people in Wisconsin, because there is almost certainly going to be cases about abortion and gerrymandering and voting coming up in this next term. And these judges are here for 10 years. Like, whoever wins April 4th, that person will be on the bench for 10 years. And we've seen the damage that conservative activist justices have done in the Wisconsin Supreme Court for the past 20 years. And it's really important.
And if I may, that actually draws a striking... I think the way to
really
also
ready to
look at
jump
this
in.
is that, you see a lot of parallels
I'm such a bottom.
between
I can't
what
jump
could
in
happen in the
when I
Wisconsin
want to jump
Supreme
in.
Court, because the vote to overturn the election of 2020 was narrowly avoided by
This is what I was about to bring up.
vote or something like that. Just one vote stopped that from happening. And so just from what we've seen on the federal Supreme Court, where people don't have a say in who's appointed, who's brought on there for a lifetime
Power bottom time, true.
You see the damage that's done when there are justices who try to push a specific agenda. So looking at Wisconsin,
Call me when you want.
voters have a
Call me
chance
when you
to
need.
prevent that kind of
It's the power
outcome
bottom
from
anthem.
happening. So I think that's also why this is just important to just look at what's happening nationwide and why this type of race is especially important for people
I was talking
to
over the
look at,
important
and why
thing.
it's so important to volunteer if you don't live in Wisconsin, but also just be aware and vote if you do.
No, 100%. And what's interesting is, and while you were talking, I'm also contemplating, I should have been looking. I don't know if it was Riverboat Jack or Luxander who brought up, the importance of emphasizing an affirmative message for your candidate. So what's interesting about this, well, I'm sorry, which one of you was it? Was it Luxander or
It was
Riverboat
me.
Jack?
It was Luxander, yeah.
Oh, it was Luxander? Okay. I thought that was a great point because I was thinking about that. And I remember when I was canvassing with Progress Libs in North Carolina, it was for Sherry Beasley when she was running for Senate. And of course, unfortunately, she lost. But it was easier.
I wonder
to
if I
make
should
a
switch to
case,
boy
an
voice so that
affirmative
I'm
case
more easily
for,
discernible from
Beasley,
Riverboat Jack.
Because this was for a
That would be fun.
legislative position where there was a clear alignment. She was a Democrat, running as a Democrat. And she, of course, had a website with all sorts of policy positions that she would want to ascribe. What's interesting is, and this is what kind of makes the Wisconsin case so difficult, is it's technically a nonpartisan election. Like, Judge Protasevich is not running as a Democrat. It's a nonpartisan election. And Daniel Kelly is technically not running as a Republican. Now, we know, based on especially Daniel Kelly's history of judicial activism and the fact that he was on the Supreme Court, I think back in 2016, he was appointed to fill a vacancy by the then Republican governor. So we have something to kind of sink our teeth into. This man has written opinions. He has decided cases that show a clear, blatant judicial activism history towards conservatives. Whereas Judge Janet, she was an assistant district attorney. She's been a circuit judge here, but she's not been a political activist in the way that Daniel Kelly has been. So it's like, man, it's almost, for me, I'm trying to kind of square that because I agree with you. It's usually better to make a much better, like an affirmative case. But I guess I've been very much focused on, here's what we know about this guy. And it is vital that we keep him out of the Supreme Court. And from what we know of Judge Janet, she would respect, like she's taken a strong position on women's right to choose. I said that. But because she's a judge, she's not like forecasting a lot of her, listen, if I see a gun case, this is how I'm going to decide. If I see this case, this is how I'm going to decide. She has not made her positions quite as firm as a lot of like legislative candidates have, and I think it's because she's running as a judge. So it's
Well,
tough.
and that's definitely true, because that would, rub against the grain of what a judge is supposed to be, based on the judicial canons, just not only in Wisconsin but all over the place. Those are the ethical standards that judges have to go by. So, what you said just now has definitely resonated with me. Just because there is, well, a lot of those points resonated with me, but I think, your candidate sticks in people's minds if you actually know what they stand for.
Mm-hmm.
But with a judge, you kind of have to adopt a sort of balancing act just to make sure, like, you can properly emphasize what they stand for while not having something like a legislative history to point at.
Right.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's so tough.
Well, and with with Daniel Kelly, we have some people from Wisconsin in my community who are talking about like how he runs ads in Wisconsin for this election, talking about how he is the conservative judge. Like he talks about it and is billing himself as explicitly political, which is I would think worrying for a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's ironic.
Yeah, so and again, the interesting thing for me is outside of Judge Protasevich's, public comments about a woman's right to choose, as far as I know, she's not been like blatantly advertising herself as the liberal choice. Now, I will say her public endorsements, like she's it's so funny to square this, because the idea of like Supreme Court judges being popularly elected like that, it's so hard to conceive of that because we're used to the federal Supreme Court. But she has been publicly endorsed by the 3 sitting liberal justices on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. She's been endorsed by Emily's List, big pro-choice group. So we know if you kind of read the context, we know she's the liberal judge. But I will say, on her website, she does appeal to the fact that she was a former assistant district attorney. She was a prosecutor, right? So she's also trying to leverage, there's a bit of ambiguity there, because you would typically expect that a person who would appeal to their history as a prosecutor would probably be more conservative than left or liberal, because it's law enforcement, right? So there's more. I feel like she has been more ambiguous. Like she has been much more careful about trying to not come off as blatantly partisan. Whereas Daniel Kelly, I feel like he's one step away from just throwing a little R at the end of his name, like my name is Daniel Kelly R. He changes it just to appeal to Republicans. But yeah, that's what I mean. It's tough.
And that's, it's an interesting contrast, because I was watching
like Ketanji Brown Jackson
when, there were 4 folks in the race, and, Judge Dora wasn't thrown out of consideration. And something I noticed is that there's a disconnect between how he and Doro presented themselves during that conference or that forum, and, how you just described Judge Kelly and his advertising, because that's where I get a lot of, the context that, he presents himself in a judicial setting as if he's just, any other ordinary judge, when he knows that people are watching him, but all the while pushing.
I think it's good for state judges to not be partisan,
right? Almost like he's
because the whole point of the judiciary is that they're supposed to make impartial decisions, not based on
just don't expect of a judge.
Political parties.
I think again, somebody was saying earlier at the very beginning of this conversation that you look at it may have been you, Kevin, the federal Supreme Court. I mean, the regressive conservative supermajority on the United States Supreme Court is mask off now. I mean, they've basically dropped all pretense that they're partisan ideologues and activists. So I guess it's probably not surprising to see that even on a state level, like state Supreme Court justices are following suit, especially the conservative ones, because I just don't think there's much shame. I think that based on what I know of Daniel Kelly, again, his involvement with the Trump plot in particular, which is, as far as I'm concerned, is immediately disqualifying. But he's also said things like affirmative action and slavery come from the same taproot, that they're equally racist. Like, he said stupid stuff like that. He said things like, abortion is, under any circumstances, is murder. Like, he has been mask off for some time. And I think that to whatever degree this matters to people, Judge Janet, who is the liberal choice, is trying to preserve as much of the judicial integrity of, listen, I'm not going to telegraph too many of my views because a case might come before me. I'm not going to commit to deciding this way or that way because the facts of the case may change. I think she's showing, to whatever degree this counts for anybody, more integrity in that regard. I can't telegraph my hand as a judge.
Absolutely. And, you're absolutely right there.
Oh, no.
And I think the problem with this as well is that people who are running for office, for example, generally don't expect voters to, look into their history. Because as you said, if you just look into Judge Kelly's history or Judge Janet's histories, you know what kind of people they are. It's the same with Justice Alito, for example. He made his views very clear on abortion when KCV Planned Parenthood came out, I think in the 90s. He was against the idea that, a boyfriend shouldn't have, I may be misremembering, but he was against the idea of a boyfriend not having a say in whether a woman should get an abortion. He wanted all the restrictions locked on there. But as a law student, I knew jack shit about Justice Alito, so I thought he was just some milquetoast Republican justice until recently, when his mask just fell right off his face. So you're absolutely right there.
It's like the pretense of judiciary, impartiality has dropped. It truly probably has never been the case that judges don't bring their political dispositions into the decisions that they make, but the veneer that they're supposed to not do that has dropped completely.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny because I consider myself a fairly well-informed layman, but I'm not an attorney. I didn't go to law school, so I can't imagine this from the perspective.
Yeah,
of
harder to
somebody
learn
who's
about the
formally
candidates for
studied
sure in
law.
local elections.
But to your point, Lux, I agree. I think there's this, and maybe Kevin will disagree, but from an outsider's perspective, it seems like there's a myth of judicial impartiality. We're all human. We are all biased to one extent or another. Every ref in the game is biased. Now, I agree that a more responsible
Slaps Hungry Bears.
judge will do
We're talking a
everything in their
progressive
power
victory,
to
folks.
police their biases, to keep them in check wherever possible. But the entire process is political from the beginning, because who nominates, in the case of the U.S. Supreme Court, a Supreme Court justice? Well, it's a president who is a political actor, right? And that justice is either confirmed or denied by other political actors, the Senate. So, there's always been that inherence to it, but judges used to go out of their way to try to persuade people, listen, I know this Republican nominated me, and I'm about to get confirmed by a Republican Senate. But I promise you, I'm not Republican. Nobody owns my ruling, right? And then somebody like Alito, who's already there, right? Unless he retires or dies, that man, he's going to be on that bench for the rest of his life. So what fear does he have? You know what I mean? He can just drop all pretense. And going back to Planned Parenthood versus Casey, it reminded me that Daniel Kelly.
They were lying. Yeah.
He's gone on the record that Obergefell v. Hodges, which enshrined gay marriage protections on a federal level, that was illegitimate. So that's another thing. It's not just that he's conflating affirmative action and slavery. God. He's not just saying that he's, that abortion is murder. He also stands in sharp contrast and strong opposition to LGBTQ rights.
Omnichrome,
So,
you should consider canvassing.
I'll agree with most of that for sure.
Hold on, let me get you links.
I think that, and that's why there are certain legal doctrines in place which are supposed to enforce
you should check out these
impartiality
links.
in judges and justices, like the concept of recusal, which isn't something that's universally adopted across the board, but I know that's something that Judge Janet is a big fan of, whereas Judge Kelly is not. Once again, this took some digging into, just what they believe in to
We're talking about the Supreme Court vote is coming up in April,
because,
Omnichrome.
again, I think I was talking with Jack before everybody else joined on this. I'm not sure, but, a judge is supposed to take themselves out of a case when somebody that they know, on a really good level, or somebody who's donated to them, or someone who's benefited them in some way, comes before them as a litigant. So the concept of recusal is you're supposed to pull yourself out of consideration if you know that you can't be impartial based on your relationship with that person. And that's not a bad thing.
No. And correct me if I'm wrong, isn't there also a consideration like among ethicists that even if you're confident for whatever reason, deluded, you're confident, whatever, you're pretty sure you can behave objectively, even to avoid the appearance of impropriety, that's also a reason to recuse yourself, right? So, like, even if, like, or is it just if you're fairly certain you can't behave objectively? I thought there was, like, even, like, an appeal to the appearance of impropriety. A judge should probably do the right thing and just...
Like, to preserve that view that it's going to be
Yeah.
impartial, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there is
This is a painfully liberal conversation.
To
I'm
avoid
sorry.
the appearance of impropriety because
It always is with PV.
the judiciary used to put that in a high regard. At least in appellate courts. I've dealt a lot with
People did say I should talk about
trial
anarchism
courts
more, though.
where
So
a
maybe I will
judge's
do that.
decision making is, fairly solid
before
because they have
we
to
read
review all the
bread
facts before
book.
them. I haven't run into a situation where a judge had to recuse themselves, but yeah, even in the appearance of impropriety, they have to refrain from doing certain things. So, I think Judge Janet hit the nail on the head. Just because she understands the importance of that tool and is there for a reason. And I think that's actually the benchmark of an excellent judge.
And my understanding is that when Daniel Kelly was briefly Justice Kelly, like when he served that previous term, there were at least 6 instances where he had organizations or groups with which he was affiliated as a litigant before him, and he didn't recuse himself. And according to the review of those cases, he ruled in favor, or helped rule in favor, because of course it wasn't just him, it was the other 6 as well, of those litigants with whom he had a relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
with.
Slaps Hungry Bears.
Because
like
as far
harm
as I know-
reduction.
I
in
know
the
this is
meantime.
the case for the U.S. Supreme Court. There is no recusal enforcement mechanism. It's ultimately at the discretion of the justice at the federal level, which is why Justice Thomas did not recuse himself when that case about the January 6th text messages.
Oh, yeah.
But is that the case for Wisconsin too? Like, there's no body that can make a Wisconsin Supreme Court justice take themselves out of a case, right? They have to exercise that personal ethic, right?
Don't quote me on that.
I know the honor
have to
system is
look it up.
ridiculous here.
I know that there is a provision in the Wisconsin court system about Wisconsin judges, but I'm not certain about the Wisconsin
Justice.
Supreme Court. And I think that's why that's being brought up as a point in this election, because that's such an important thing to put in place. Kind of like how, as you said, for the Supreme Court of the United States, there is no recusal standard. There aren't even ethical rules that the Supreme Court justices have to follow, like any other judge. So, yeah, I think that's why this is a big sticking point in this race.
So that's another great distinguishing factor between Daniel Kelly and Judge Protasevich is we know for a fact when he was a Supreme Court justice on at least 6 occasions he did not recuse himself in situations in which he should. So we have no reason to believe that he will do so in the future. And I don't know if you have any additional questions, because I know you wanted me here till late, but I guess the last thing that I would at least like to get out is to whoever's watching, and again, I don't know if you've covered this before, but I cannot stress enough the importance. If you have friends, if you live in Wisconsin, if you have friends family members who live in Wisconsin, if you are connected to anybody in Wisconsin, if you have any degree of influence over anybody who might have, skin in the game, this
Hypnotoad.
obviously only Wisconsinites can vote, but the impact of this election will have sweeping consequences because, on just a state level, when I was thinking about this, making sure that I had the facts correct. I was kind of blown away.
I know
knew
0
that
people in
was a
Wisconsin.
battleground state. It's always a state that
Omnichrome from the YouTube chat is
Democrats
from
and Republicans
Wisconsin.
fight for in every election. But going into the history of this, Republicans didn't have a super majority in the state legislature here, which is bicameral, so they have a state senate and a state general assembly until 2011. when Republicans got in power, and then they rewrote the voting maps in Wisconsin to basically tee it up so that they would have a permanent supermajority indefinitely. It's such bad faith. It's such bad faith. They during the 2020
If you're not American, you can still phone bank.
They got a supermajority in the
You can't donate, but you can phone bank.
But in order to override a governor veto, you need a supermajority in both chambers.
Ooh, thank you, Slaps Hungry Bears.
3 votes. They lost. They failed to get 3 additional seats, which would have gotten them a Republican supermajority in the state legislature. So even if Tony Evers, who did win the election, he's a Democrat. He's the Democratic governor of Wisconsin. Thank God he won. But in an alternate universe, in a gazillion timelines, Republicans would have been able to lock down a supermajority, and then Governor Evers would be impotent.
You wouldn't have a veto
They're
anymore.
3 votes shy of that, and then you have a situation where there are going to be cases in the future where those voting maps are reexamined, and it's vital that we have a liberal-leaning court for that reason. You look at some of the other cases, like I'm sure you guys have talked about it. They have an abortion law on the books going back to like 1849, and it's punitive in the extreme. It opens the door for criminalizing women who get abortions, physicians who perform them, people who facilitate them. And right now, Governor Evers and his attorney general are vowing to not enforce that law, but it's eventually going to make its way up to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And the stakes are so high for people in the state, but then also on the next election time. What Donald Trump's running for president in 2024. What happens if we run into another situation like 2020? If you get a judge like Daniel Kelly, who is credibly linked to a plot to steal the election from Joe Biden on behalf of Donald Trump, you could have a scenario where Wisconsin's 10 electoral votes go to Donald Trump, even if he didn't win them. You know what I mean? So it's just the consequences are so severe. This is such a low-profile election, but the importance is so outsized. Please get the word out. For canvassing efforts and things like this, if you are in a position to donate to Progress Lives and Progressive Victory, I would also urge you to do that. This stuff really, really matters. The only advantage we have on the left in this country is the popularity of our positions and grassroots movements. Republicans are systemically advantaged in every possible way in this country, and Wisconsin is a microcosm of that. This is a 50-50 split state that they've gone out of their way to stack in their favor. They will not fight fair. They will maximize and exploit those systemic disadvantages that we have. We have to have a strong grassroots game. Progress Libs and Progressive Victory, they have that.
Yeah. And to build on your point briefly, one of the reasons why this election is so important, specifically with regards to what you were saying about their districting maps, is because the 2020 census has been done now. And so with the 2020 census in place, and that revealing unlawful population disparities among districts, the court adopted new maps.
Don't know who that was.
From the 2011 maps. And so that means this year it's now open season for litigation.
I think some other volunteers might be coming on to talk with us later.
Current maps, which are not settled in law. Litigation against the 2011 maps were settled. And that'd be a much harder legal fight. But because these are new maps, this new court, whoever wins in the election on April 4th, gets to decide whether or not they are impartial maps. And that's going to have both sweeping ramifications for the politics inside the state and also just nationally as well.
Yeah, like to be totally clear with everybody, the results of this Supreme Court nomination could determine the result of the next presidential election. Like, we are not messing around. Like, this is not a game. There's a reason why I live in Kansas. I don't normally need to be talking about what's going on in Wisconsin. I don't care about what's going on in Wisconsin. I have a heavily gerrymandered state too. Like, we're buddies on that account. But no, like, this could literally be the difference between Ron DeSantis, president of the United States of America, versus like Biden. You know, like, honestly, this is a terrifying situation that we need to pay attention to.
100%. I'll also say, I know it's not the subject of this, but did you all see the news today where former President Trump said that he's going to be arrested on Tuesday? So here's hoping his prophecy comes true.
I'll believe it when I see it, but I do like that he is on Truth Social, typing in all caps about it.
It is.
It's not.
Nice slaps, Hungry Bears. I'm glad you're getting your documents updated and working on the bug out bag
and
for sure.
apparently McCarthy is probing into it now too.
Of course, like everything else, Hunter Biden's laptop for the 7th time, Hunter Biden himself for the 12th time. It's just a ridiculous shit show, just it at 100%. And again, it's really, really important because there's no evidence that the Republican Party here in Wisconsin, or just period across the United States, there's no limiting principle to this political party. There's no good faith to be had. They're going to maximize every systemic advantage that they can possibly get. And this election would go a long way to not only stopping that, but potentially reversing course. So
yeah, because Judge Janet is unequivocally against, gerrymandering in the way that it's happened in Wisconsin. So that's another point for everybody to consider, is that, she sees it as unjust across the board with how it's been applied in the past. So just something to chew on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about it before you hopped on, Pondering, and there are some figures that indicate that the current gerrymandering status in Wisconsin is both arguably the worst in America, and also not just that, but if
honestly,
a
Mama
Democrat gets 50
believe it when I see
of the vote, or if Democrats get 50% of the vote, they win around 38% of the seats. Just an absolute ridiculous disparity. And if Republicans get 50%, they get 65% of.
Yeah, it's so funny how, again, the more research I've done into this, it seems like Wisconsin's such a tragic microcosm of the country writ large, because political analyst David Shore, he's done.
I actually like that phrase, slaps Hungry Bears. I think it's true.
Which is basically the only way Republicans have a shot of ever securing the presidency. And with each subsequent election,
but I have particular
Democrats have to win
reasons.
more of the popular vote, an increasing share of the popular vote, to just break even in the Electoral College. So to what you were just talking about, basically, if I win 50% of the vote, I get 30% of the representation in the legislature. That is, I'm not a math guy, but somebody explain that to me. Explain to me how 50% nets you 30. I just don't get it.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
This is why I went to law school. I don't do math.
I don't see the point in it. Math has contributed nothing to society. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, obviously, you're
no more
welcome
bridges
to stick around for as long as you'd like. But I know we're gonna hop off at 8, but you're welcome to stay if you'd like.
I appreciate that. I think I'm going to give other people a shot and to give their perspectives on it. But I really appreciate you all talking and platforming this, streaming this. Getting perspectives from people on the ground doing it. Hopefully we can signal boost this as much as possible. And yeah, sorry for the 7 name confusion, but again, I'm Josiah, formerly Ruminate. I go by Pondering Politics on YouTube, and I think we're going to turn the mic over to somebody else. So I'm going to take the screen off. That way you don't have to see the awkward transition. But we will be right back, okay?
Thank you so much for your time, Josiah.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.
No more horses.
Yeah, we should be joined by Sockdun Left shortly here.
What is Sockdun? What is his name?
And
I cannot remember it.
Hopping in.
I always just see SDL in my brain.
That was
I can't
a
remember
really
their
great
name.
conversation. I'm happy with how that went.
Yeah, super chill.
Seriously.
And I also want to say, we're going to be talking with a lot of people throughout the night in chat. So
no way. Is it really? Is it Aiden?
Have questions
Stolen valor from trans men.
Please just ask in chat, and we'll try and relay those questions. Okay. And yeah, that was great. Also, just Kevin, Luxander, amazing questions from you two. Good job.
Thank
Thumbs up.
you.
Yeah. So again, folks,
Goober.
it's really, really, really important for you to get out and volunteer and donate. Okay, for this election. The election day is April 4th. It's coming up here. It is going to be a really, really momentous day in American politics. If you would like to get involved, you can use !Canvas in chat. That will get you the link for volunteering on the ground.
I wasn't going to make 3 different links.
If you would like to donate, and you can only donate if you're a U.S. citizen, okay? But if you'd like to, that goes towards funding the shelter and food people are going to be using on the ground. That's !Donate. And if you would like to, if you can't make it out there, but you still want to volunteer your time and effort, you can use !Phone Bank to join the roster of our phone bankers. And we need literally every volunteer we can get. So please do those 2 things. Click those 2 links. Do it. Do it now. Do it. Also, SDL, welcome.
Howdy, I've been drafted in. What's up?
Hello.
We just finished talking with Pondering Politics, and it's lovely to have you here. How are you doing? I know you've been sick. Thank you for joining us despite that.
Yeah, the eternal head cold. It's been 2 weeks.
Oh my goodness. Is it
Oh, hey,
COVID?
welcome back, Richard.
Richard is the umbrella account for all of the people who will be joining us from Wisconsin. So Richard does not exist today.
But
Richard has
doing
many
okay?
faces, many voices.
Many names and many faces.
He speaks for all of us.
Oh, I think someone's talking on the other end, but didn't mean to interrupt you, Jack.
Oh no, I was
Yeah.
just asking if it was COVID and if you're doing okay.
No, I'm all right. Actually, so one thing that some of y'all might have an answer for, I was looking to see if there had been any polling done on this election, because I'm sure Riverboat might have mentioned the election results in the primary, but it does
The
seem like
globalist
it's
phone
maybe
bankers.
leaning towards the Liberal candidates, but only by a slight margin based on the vote outcomes. I don't know if we have any more recent data.
I
Let's
haven't
see.
seen any, but I can make a good effort to try and find it.
From what Josiah was saying, it seems population-wise that Wisconsin is pretty close to a 50-50 blue-red split, and that it's like the gerrymandering that makes it so that is not what the representation in government is like. So it would not surprise me if polls will tend to run sort of down the middle as well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'd expect. My understanding is that in the primary, it was about 53% for the woman with the unpronounceable Polish name who is the best candidate that all of you should support.
Protasewicz.
Protasewicz, yeah.
And the other liberal candidate, so 53% for like the liberal side, so very close to 50. So like hopeful, but not that hopeful. Like you can't just rest on our laurels or anything.
Yeah. Also, are we good to go with our second Richard of the evening?
Yeah, new person, say hello.
Hello, I'm new person. My name's Adam.
Hey, Adam, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys?
I'm doing
Doing-
great.
Having a good night so far.
Yeah, doing fantastic. We're so happy to have you here, and so happy to be talking about this.
Yeah. So what? Can you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm Adam. So I'm with Progressive Victory. I'm the Wisconsin state lead, and I've been helping out John Elysium on organizing this canvassing event we got going on, and the whole kind of like Supreme Court race initiative that we're doing. So.
Okay, awesome. So one of the things I was interested in after talking with Pondering Politics, and I think maybe you could shed some light on this. What are like the logistics like in trying to put together a canvassing effort like this, right? Like we were hearing about, like you guys have housing, you guys have been like feeding volunteers, and there are like designated drivers to get people to where they need to be. That seems like a lot of moving parts. So,
Andy's
like, how
happy
does
birthday.
How does that all come together?
I haven't seen Everything Everywhere All at Once yet.
Okay,
I want to, though.
I should clarify. So the guy who knows
Okay.
everything going on about everything is currently broken down in a car on his way here. So
Oh,
I know a
no.
lot of like background stuff. So I don't know if I
Okay.
can particularly answer that question, but I know like the stuff mostly leading up to the canvas, and I've been here on the weekends. So I'm more like that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Gotcha. Sorry.
No, no.
Um,
How would you know?
But like, tell us about your role. Like,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you've been executing out there? Like, I assume that you're local to Wisconsin. So like, tell us a little bit about that.
So I'm based in Milwaukee. I got involved through Progressive Victory through.
I
there
would
was,
be
like, a
good
walkthrough,
interviewer.
we promoted it, so that's how I got on board. I kind of was just some guy doing phone banking events. Next thing I know, I get dragged into being a phone banking lead. Next thing I know, I'm being dragged into a state lead. I don't really want to do anything, but it's happening.
Divorce.
You know, I keep getting more and more responsibility. I'm working with John. He was part of the Lake Michigan Democratic Initiative. I believe they were inspired by Destiny doing all that kind of canvassing effort. They wanted to reproduce it kind of in the Midwest area.
I want to
So
send
those two
Vash a
orgs kinda
cursed
joined
picture of a horse
together, and we're working together to kind
one
of
of these
do the
days
things that
and just
Destiny was
see
doing, but in
if he
Wisconsin.
reacts. What I really
So I've
would
been
like
kinda
is to
working
post
with them on
the
that.
cursed picture of a horse and have him just reply to it so
and,
that we can do
like,
the meme.
You just kind of got pulled along by this. Like, how does one become like a lead for the phone banking effort? Like,
So
can you
essentially,
give us more
how one
info on
becomes
that?
a lead is you join a new organization, no one else is volunteering for it, and you say, "Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds interesting," and next thing you know, you're a lead.
Thank
And
you,
you have a bunch of
Slaps Hungry Viewers. I appreciate
responsibilities. So I
that.
really am just some guy who knows nothing about organizing. I just cared a lot about politics and didn't know where to put that effort. And then because I had that energy and was in the right place, the right people were like, "Hey, we need volunteers. You can help us." And now it just kind of kept escalating. So.
So like, what have you learned? Like, what was your experience phone banking like?
I'm a very anxious kind of person. I was kind of surprised how easy it was to get over the first couple of calls because phone banking is
Frozen
like a lot
dicks.
of people's personal nightmare. You know, calling up strangers, you don't know who they are. Most people hate being on the phone at all in general. But I was surprised to learn that most people are positive or they just don't want to talk to you at all. It's actually a really easy thing to learn, and it's a very productive experience. You talk to a lot of different types of people, and you actually really do get to change a lot of like independent people's minds or remind people to vote or where to go to vote, and it's a very helpful thing. I was surprised how much I actually was able to help people out during the process. So
Yeah, I guess a lot of people don't typically consider like phone banking to be a helpful thing, like you are providing a service to people.
Mhm.
But from talking with a lot of the folks who've been volunteering and doing it for like Progressive Victory, like it does seem like more often than not, people
Have they tried
are just
canvassing
really
in gaming
appreciative
lobbies?
that you're like giving them useful information.
100%. Yeah, it's like some of the phone banks, depending on the type, not all of them are like throw you out into the void, random numbers of people, Republicans, Democrats, everyone. A lot of times it's like a focused one. So one that we did that was particularly useful in Pennsylvania was that we were trying to make sure that people got their absentee ballot. We would walk through people on how to fill it out. We would go through all the rules. We would make sure if they were elderly or disabled that they had a way to get and deposit the ballot. So it was like actual like verifiable. I know I helped this person. I walked them through this process, and I was doing that for a couple of weeks. So it was a very good, positive experience. So
Okay.
yeah.
And what have you been doing on the ground in Wisconsin?
So we've been during the midterms. We've been focusing in Waukesha County because it's considered a very red area of Wisconsin. It's like most people, they don't think, why are a bunch of people focusing on Waukesha? It's red. What good can you do? But during the midterms, it actually had the second biggest blue shift. I believe the highest was Madison County, where Madison is, Dane County, I think it is.
Yeah,
And
gonna go on a
we were actually a
WALK.
significant contribution to that. We had 750 hours of canvassing done. We knocked 1,200 doors, which was about 1/5 of the total doors knocked in Waukesha County. So we can actually say that we had a significant impact in the shift on that race in the midterms. And then we had such a good time doing that. We were going canvassing like every other weekend. We would go to Culver's for lunch. We'd hang out, made friends, and then we wanted to continue on during the Supreme Court. So we kind of were ramping up doing that. And then John had the idea based on how Georgia went with Destiny that they wanted to do kind of a similar event in Wisconsin. And so it was kind of a hassle trying to coordinate, with the local parties and candidates to try to get everything together and try to get enough people interested in doing this with us.
This
But
is
overall,
Wisconsin.
John would be
It's
the
in the
best person to ask
Midwest.
about that stuff. But overall, we
Yeah.
pulled it together.
Culver's is fucking good though. They're
Can
delicious.
I just ask? You mentioned something in there about
Okay, no
like,
worries, Slaps Hungry Bear.
making
I just hadn't
friends.
seen you in chat in a while.
Like how good is like volunteering at like helping like folks to like make connections and meet people and make friends. Because I know that there are a lot of isolated people in like my community.
It's all about the Butterburgers at Culver's. They're so
who,
good.
Like talk about wanting to make connections but not really being sure how. Is this a good way for them to do that?
100%, yeah. Especially like in my case, I don't really talk about politics with any of like my close friends in my personal life. It's just something I keep off the table. I don't want to bring it in. So now I can kind of bring all of my obsessive online politics stuff, bring it into the real world, and meet people who also have that same kind of online aspect based on this community, and then do real world like impact. Take that kind of terminally online and bring it to the real world. And it's just been a really great way to make friends. One of the guys I met during the midterms, I now talk to.
It's obnoxious that I know I can't ask about like COVID precautions in any of these offices because you know that they're not going to have any.
Yeah. And if people wanted to,
yeah,
like,
these Wisconsin people apparently are all DGG fans.
They could join like the Progressive Victory PV22.
100%. Yeah.
Stress in the tax season. Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah. And you can also just click one of the links. You can use !canvas. Again, !canvas if you want to volunteer on the ground. You can also phone bank, !phone bank if you want to do, if you want to get involved in that way. And again, pv22.com.
So I wanted to ask a little bit about. The phone banking and just the general atmosphere that you guys have there. So how many volunteers do you typically get every night when you do phone banking or canvassing?
So it kind of depends on when and how like what time of day, what day.
Show us the
how
boys.
close to the election we are. So obviously, as you get closer to the election that we're focusing on, you get more and more people, because a lot of times people, they just keep procrastinating. They're like, oh wait, there's 2 days left to the election, and suddenly we'll go from having 3 to 4 people a night to having 20, during a phone bank. But a lot of times
Does that do something on someone else's website?
It kind of depends if there's like a Bucks game going on or Packers. I know during the midterms, Packer game severely interfered with our scheduling with how many people would actually show up to the phone banks or answer the calls. We got a lot of angry people during the Packers games when we did the phone banks. But it kind of ramps up as you go along. For example, like this current Supreme Court rate, we were having like decent turnout. We were having like 3 to 5 people, which doesn't sound like a lot, but for a 3 times a week weekly event,
We're getting the Lux on a panel where there are too many people experience of side commentary.
Ever since like the Vosh
I don't have a lot to add here.
2 days ago, last night, I don't remember.
I also was really in a bad mood when we started this stream, and I did not want to be here. So I'm trying to enjoy myself.
It's been a pretty big boost, so it kind of depends on the visibility as well. So.
Okay. Yeah.
I know the Destiny thing is.
And now that
crazy.
you've been doing this since the midterms, right?
Yeah, I started in the midterm.
I haven't even talked about his recent transgender commentary.
How does this election in Wisconsin compared to like the midterms? Because I know that there should be like a difference of like scale, but it seems like a lot of effort and money is going into this election.
Yeah, I guess with the midterms, especially with Progressive Victory, it felt kind of more of like a unified countrywide thing. Like I kind of felt like we were kind of tackling battles all around the country. Like we focused in Pennsylvania,
MLT 3000,
Arizona, Wisconsin, a couple other areas. But for the Supreme Court, obviously it's more focused in Wisconsin. I live here, so for me it's a lot more personal. It feels like it has a significant impact on my daily life, like whether
a
or
mere
not I
8+ hours, and you might finally catch that Vosh raid wave.
And
truly,
all my fellow people who live in the local area who are canvassing, it feels like a lot more emotional. Like there's a lot more at stake. So that's why I've been going a lot harder during the.
Is he on right now?
Race than I did during the midterms. So.
Makes sense.
I want to have more excuses to talk to Vosh. Because he's cool.
You've been going a lot harder.
He's not live right now, though. He might. He's going to join the call, but not be on
live. In terms of like
live.
Political organizing, because I think for a lot of people that it seems like it can be hard to wrap your head around like what that actually entails, right?
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm just some guy. I don't have a good background in this stuff, so I kind of went from like this phone bank, the guy who would host phone banks on Progressive Victory, to trying to volunteer more. Like, can I help here? What can I do to help John out? Will this make this easier for you? And then you kind of get more and more responsibility. I became a state lead with a co-lead who eventually got a field position. So then I became a solo lead. And so that just involved, I was trying to get people rallied in the actual server who lived in Wisconsin. So I was like Discording everybody,
If I
emailing
join the
them,
DSA,
trying
am I
call
going to
and
have to
text them. I
avoid
was just
Destiny
desperately trying to get
orbiters?
as
Like,
many
am I going to
people
have to
to these
avoid
events as
conversations
possible,
about
kind of
Destiny?
have everyone who could be aware of like the significance of this race. It's not just a Wisconsin thing, it's a national thing as well. So
Probably.
And how have you been able to like reach people and like kind of convey that it is that what affects Wisconsin affects them too, even if they live in like New York or California?
Well, one thing we kind of wanted to focus on is just that there's so much information. So one thing we did is we kind of like pushed it down into this like handy little graphic, and we kind of tried to find like, okay, what are the 3 main points that will sell this election, like to everyone, not just like Wisconsin. So one of them was like the abortion, 1800s law that's terrible, 0 weeks, gerrymandering, which in Wisconsin I think it was like 2018 we had like over 50% of the vote. We only got like 30-something% of those seats. So obviously there's a disproportionate number of Republicans getting in compared to what the people actually want. And then the third one was how in 2020 only it was a 4-3 court, conservative leaning, and Trump wanted to throw away 200,000 ballots, and only one conservative judge stood in the way of that actually happening. So we don't want to take those odds in the future. So we kind of like focused on those 3 points, and surprisingly, that kind of people really rallied around those like 3 really quick, easy to understand points of like, why does this matter locally and why does this matter nationally? Does that kind of make sense?
No, that's a wonderful answer. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I got to run to the bathroom real quick. You guys hold down the fort.
What has been your favorite thing so far about volunteering with this, with any of the volunteering you've done with Progressive Victory? Like, what's been the highlight for you so far?
Okay. I guess like
I was ready.
Going from someone who's kind of terminally online and I just kind of had a lot of like political rage, I guess, and not knowing where to put it. And it's been very satisfying to actually have a place where I can do something that I know for a fact is productive. So just having kind of like, if I didn't have Progressive Victory and all this volunteering we've been doing with the Wisconsin Democrats, I think I'd be a lot more anxious and freaked out about this upcoming election. It's given me kind of a sense of peace. Like, I know that I have done everything I could within like my brain power,
Yeah, like you have like this energy to do something, and now you have like an outlet to do it. I imagine that's probably really good for one's mental health. Like, especially because everything is so hard right now. Yeah.
Yeah. I tend to overthink things, so it's nice to have something else to overthink about. So that's good.
You can externalize your anxiety somewhat.
Yeah. So, and honestly, on phone banks, the angry Republican calls are a lot of fun. Like they stop being like irritating and they just become funny. So I actually get joy out of that as well. So,
do you have a funniest moment so far?
Yeah, is there an outrageous like highlight?
Nothing in particular. I had a shocking number of people. Like, I'll be like, "Hey, is this Cindy?" And she'll be like, "Yeah," and they'll blow a raspberry in my ear and hang up. So just a lot of people like. I guess raspberry, I guess, is a local. It's like spitting in your ear. I said that when people didn't know.
It's like when you make a fart with your mouth, like.
Yeah, just like stupid things like that, like things that they think is like this sick burn, like, oh, I really got that dem on the phone or whatever, and it just is lame, and I just find it funny. So I don't have a particular one that comes to mind, but it's like little things like that. So.
Do you even have time to introduce yourself, or is that just people responding to a potential spam call, like they don't recognize the number?
A lot of times I go through the whole bit like, hey, my name's Adam. I'm representing the Wisconsin. I'm a volunteer for the Wisconsin Democrats. How you doing today? Is this Cindy? And then they'll respond. So they know the whole spiel. They know why I'm there. They know why I'm talking to them. So, yeah.
And I think I wanted to piggyback off of the previous question because you tend to get a lot of those calls, and so. Or excuse me, you run into those calls sometimes, and so when people hear about that and they think about phone banking, there might be some anxiety that comes with cold calling people and maybe expecting a wave of those. So my question to you is, what would be the best advice for you to give to people who may feel anxious about phone banking or just volunteering in general?
Well, number one, I'm exactly the same. Like, for example, being on the stream right now is like a literal nightmare I've probably had in the past. I don't like public speaking.
Poor kid.
I don't enjoy talking to people all that much. And yet, After a couple of calls, honestly, you get in the flow of it, you kind of get your script down, and then it just kind of becomes, it's almost like a job, you're doing factory work. You just go through the motions and you're just doing it, and you get more of a reward out of it instead of like the dread. You just kind of have to get over that hurdle. And in terms of like the negative experiences, like I've talked about the Republicans talking, but even in the ones where we were just kind of thrown into the wild, like most Republicans, they just don't want to talk to you. Like most people just hang on the phone. They're like, sorry, I'm a Republican, and they hang up on you. Like overwhelmingly, I've been doing it since the midterms, like 3 to 4 a week. They last 2 hours. I can really count on my fingers the negative calls I've had, like ones that like were rude. So most people are good people who just kind of don't want to talk to you. That's it.
So we were talking with Josiah before about the kind of conversations that he has with individuals when he's going door to door. Would you say that your conversations over the phone are like fairly brief? Like he was reporting, for the most part, he just walks up and says, knock, knock, hey, just want to let you know there's this election happening. It's very important. Please vote for Janet. And then like end call, essentially. Is that more or less your experience with the phone banking? Like it's pretty quick?
Yeah, it's either that or you get the people who just kind of really quickly answer your questions. Sometimes you get a really enthusiastic people. The longest ones are usually the people who are like, I don't know if they're tired or something, or they don't have any friends, but they finally have someone to talk to, and they'll just go on and on and on. You can tell they've been planning this in their head. And sometimes it's fun to let them listen, but most of the time you just got to hang up and be like, I got other calls to make. But I had one guy who he strung me along for 20 minutes, convincing me that he was a Dem, and at the end, and he was like, and I will never vote for Tony Evers, and then he hung up. So like, those are the people who are the worst. But yeah,
Just trying to waste your time.
yeah. But in the end, it's kind of funny. So
Yeah,
That's good that you're
definitely
able to
run
find the
those
light in it.
experiences.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Tragedy plus time is comedy.
So do you feel like this experience, Adam, has imbued you with some confidence? Because you said you were having like, this was like a nightmare for you in the past of going on a stream. You're doing fantastic. Like you seem like you're much more comfortable than your typical phone anxious introvert.
Well, I'm glad I'm coming across that way.
You seem very chill, my dude.
Okay, cool. Good to know. I don't feel that way, but I'm glad to know I come across that.
But the phone banking itself, at least, has gotten a little bit easier, right? And you've made some social connections as well that I imagine are kind of carrying you through that experience.
And canvassing as well, like I remember when we first started in the midterms, like I would sit in the car and I'd go over the script and I'd look over the script in my phone, and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to say this, this, and this, like calm down, and then I'd go up to the door and do it. But now it's just like, okay, give me the lit. What's their name? I go up there, I do my spiel, I go back. Like you kind of just get this confidence, and you just really stop caring what people think, and you just kind of enjoy the positive experiences you get. It's amazing how quickly it happens. So
More
There are
hope for the
multiple
socially
people there.
anxious.
You can.
Sorry, go ahead, Kevin. I was just bullshitting.
Oh no, you're all good. So I was just gonna say, and if there are multiple people there are also ways they all can practice with each other, right? Like that's something that I remember from phone banking a lifetime ago, where if I wasn't
Phone calls are
sure
so weird.
how to go about a script, I'd ask someone to like help just practice through it with me.
But it's easier to do a phone
being
call
the
when I'm
other
at work or
person on the other
something.
end of the line. So
it's
I
kind of that
imagine
same
it's the
thing.
same there. You're not just expected to do this like right out the gate. Perfect.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like some people, they're comfortable just reading over the script, and we tell them to kind of make it your own, or we say like read it line for line, and eventually you'll learn you don't want to do that, and they kind of just find out what they want to do. But I've had people sometimes like we'll do like a Zoom breakout, and we'll go over step by step. I'll pretend like I'm a crazy person, or I'll pretend like I'm a nice person, and that kind of just eases them a bit. You just kind of have to go over it and kind of figure the flow of the conversation, so you don't sound so robotic, and then people usually are a lot more comfortable after that.
So there is like a little bit of training that goes into this.
Oh yeah, before every phone bank we do, like it's like a 20 minute training session at the beginning. We show them what the dialer looks like, we tell them what the script is, we kind of go over the main points, and like little tips and tricks we've learned on how to get people to actually listen to you, or to be less nervous and things like that. So we've kind of honed it with each phone bank. We make it a bit better each time. So
I don't have any more questions
And
for this guy.
realistically, that's all you can do.
Are there any other volunteers
and-
waiting? I don't know.
How many people? So you said that you do this about 2 hours each session. How many people do you expect to reach, or do you have a quota?
It kind of depends on like the dialer you're using and like which state we were doing. Like some states would use a dialer that just seemed quicker, but like on average, like you kind of want to make like 50 calls. Like you want to reach 50 people A lot of times on the back end you'll end up calling a lot more people and it like skips past them, so I don't quite know like the average for that. But a lot of times you'll talk to like 50 to 70 people. Like you'll make a connection with. Sometimes they'll just hang up on you, but that's about like kind of the average for a shift.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so about 50 people total every
Yeah.
night.
yep.
I got you.
That's a lot of
'cause I
exposure
imagine that-
therapy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no. Like I said, you just kind of become numb to it, and you just enjoy the positive and negative experience. You forget most of what happens. It's a blur. So.
I mean, I
And the
guess that's
whole
the good thing about adrenaline.
Practice.
Yeah, and the whole time we have the chat open. We encourage people to talk about their positive or negative experience, and then in the end we'll have like a 15-minute breakout where we're like, what happened to you? Are you still okay? Are you still here? Was there anything positive? And that kind of, people look forward to that as well. They know that there's an end in sight.
So it's like a debrief at the end. So you have like training at the beginning and then almost like a debrief at the end where people can like kind of talk about their phone calls. Because I imagine that, you know, a lot of us know what it's like to work in a call center, and those can be kind of abusive environments. And I imagine that that can be part of what people bring in their expectations. So like knowing that you'll have the opportunity to debrief just in case someone was a jerk, like that's an interesting aspect that I hadn't considered.
Yeah, and honestly, we all kind of look forward to talking about that stuff. Like I said, the negative experience ended up becoming some of the most fun in a bizarre way. The things that you dread end up being twisted. So.
I'm
aside
running out of
from-
questions.
Yeah, I know. As phone bank, there's how much can you talk about phone banking, right? So.
I mean, you've talked a lot about some of the funnier negative ones. Were there any particularly funny positive ones that you could think of?
I mean, I've talked to people. I'll be like, "Hey, are you voting for this person?" They're like, "Oh yeah, I'm their parent." I've had stuff like that. Those are fun. Or I've called.
So does that mean a yes or no?
I guess that's a good question. They were yes that one, but I guess it would be even better if they hated their kid. I think I would have enjoyed that a lot. But, I'm trying to think.
Not having verbal cues,
that's
not
the
having
major-
them like
major one
cues
I
to
think
work
is
off of
positive. A
makes
lot of times
phone
you'll just
calls
get people who,
anxious.
like,
Yep.
You can tell they don't get to talk to people about it a lot, and they just love to just be like, yeah, fuck that guy in particular, you know, and they just really want to talk about it with someone who agrees with them, and those ones always kind of warm the heart a bit. But you can't let them go too long because you have to move on to the next call. But
I know a lot of y'all have mentioned Destiny. One of the books Destiny used to promote is called Politics is for Power, and they talk about how back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, there used to be these Democratic Party like debating clubs. People would just go in and shit talk the Republicans for like an hour once a week and then go home. Sounds like that's what these people need.
yeah, they need to find like their local shit talking club. I think that'd be really nice. I would enjoy that personally. So I guess this has kind of become that. It's just like a way to vent. So
For sure. And I guess I wanted to hone in on the message that you guys are putting out there, you know, in your efforts. So not necessarily locked into phone banking, but just on a general level, you know, what do you generally tell folks about Judge Janet when, you know, you engage with people in the general public?
a lot of times I try to keep it, since it is technically a nonpartisan race. Like if I can tell the person's
Yeah.
kind of like liberal,
I have to have
left-leaning,
restraint,
I can kind of
Metho.
be more open about like, hey, she's like, she clearly doesn't support the abortion law. She's like anti-gerrymander. I can go more into the like that aspect of it. But if they kind of get like an independent, undecided vibe, a lot of times I kind of just talk about like, oh, don't you want fair and free elections? I try to keep it kind of neutral. Like, don't you want like what the people of Wisconsin want to actually be represented in their Congress? That's kind of a point that I've got a lot of success with so far during these.
I know this
last
should be a
couple
wow in
weeks.
the
A lot of
background
times they're like,
stream.
yeah, that does sound good. And then
I
they'll take the
need
paper,
to
whereas
clean
before
it
they
is
seemed
probably the
initially
first thing that
skeptical. That's
needs
the
to
one that I've had
happen.
the most success with so far. So.
You know, and I think there's something to be said about approaching a conversation by, you know, going into, I guess, the positive aspects that somebody can bring to you, as opposed to, you know, running an auditory attack ad, you know, talking about all the bad things the other person's about. What have been some of the obstacles that you've experienced in sort of trying to strike
There's no
that
Brian
balance?
David Gilbert.
Can you rephrase, like, striking the balance between talking
Uh,
about like the Janet versus like slandering Dan Kelly kind of thing?
Yes.
Slandering.
It really just depends on the person.
No.
Like you really do get like, it's like a vibe check. I don't know. You'll get the like, you can kind of tell like they seem like an angry person who wants to like shit on the Republicans. So then you can kind of go like, oh, did you know that Dan Kelly did this, this, and this? Or you kind of just get a sense of the flow of the conversation. If they seem really reserved, I try not to go like the aggressive route. If they seem like someone who really wants to kind of like debate about it, then I'll kind of bring up the Dan Kelly stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah, perfect sense. So, really, you bring up the other guy only if you kind of read the room and see it appropriate. So, I think it's important just to impress on folks that, again, even though there's a general script to follow in this sort of situation,
I want to be playing WoW now. God damn it, Decoy Duck.
It's not, set in stone, unchangeable. You can't do anything about what you say, but it, you just gotta read the conversation as it happens.
I think in the whole time I've been doing this, I don't know if I ever or at least perceived I convinced someone to get their vote by slandering the opponent, actually, which is surprising. It's usually about talking about like, here's what this person wants to do.
Ooh,
But
Sable.
anyway, I think I'm getting the wrap up thing, so I should slide on out of here. So.
Okay, we'll talk amongst ourselves while you make your transition. But thank you so much for hopping on and talking with us. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for dealing with the chaos and John being in a car trapped in the middle of Wisconsin Midwest. I did the best I could. Thank you very
We
much.
appreciate you, Adam.
Is he okay?
Thank you for all your work,
Yeah,
Adam.
the car just broke down, I guess. And
Okay.
he knows all the intricacies about like how we organize the event and stuff. So yeah.
Well, you did great.
Gremlins. I blame gremlins.
He's alive. He just got here, so we're
You
good.
held it down for 30
Okay.
minutes. We appreciate you, Adam. You did great.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Awesome.
Bye.
The CIA has moved on from that headache-inducing beam to the car breaking down beam.
No, I'm kidding.
Having your car break down in goddamn Wisconsin, man.
I know.
In the
Especially
winter.
in this. Oh my god! Especially in the winter.
It's been
Being
so
ice
cold
cube.
up here. There was a cold snap the other day that was like negative degrees.
Oh my god.
Hello, new person.
Yeah, I'm the infamous Richard. It's about
Hello.
Oh, it's you.
Yes.
And also we have Maya here.
Hey, sorry, I was just fixing my audio real quick. Is it okay if I turn on my camera? I don't know,
Yeah.
like, what the situation is.
Go for it.
Okay, hell yeah.
This is in a bad order.
Richard, do you want to start us off since you're on the ground right now?
Yeah. So I'm with
Richard the Third.
Argus Libs. We're coordinating with Progressive Victory for this Wisconsin event that's left like it's been about a little bit over a week, and a lot of what Progressive Libs does is a lot of the ground management stuff, like organizing carpools, organizing housing, making sure people are being like efficient with their door knocking, stuff like that. So we're really on the ground and working with like people pretty intimately, stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like
She's loud,
as
huh?
Richard was saying, we have been collaborating really well with Progressive
Oh, maybe
Victory.
she's not loud. Is he quiet?
This is our first like major partnership. I
He's a little
actually
bit
came out
Quiet,
well,
maybe.
it was kind of weird. I created Progress Libs and started working in North Carolina, and Progressive Victory saw my work. They kind of
Okay. Yeah, I turned him up a little bit.
swallowed me up, and then now I'm a bit more independent, and this is our first time collaborating as two separate entities. And it's been really, really fun to do. We've been able to reach heights that we haven't been on our own. Richard would have to say for how it's been right now, but
I wouldn't have
while
gum
I
in
was
my
there,
mouth
I
on a
was
panel. Gotta say.
I was over the entire thing for the first couple of days. I had to leave a bit earlier because of school obligations. But while I was there, it ran extremely smoothly. Having John as a secondary leader to assist in any problems was extremely useful. Normally, it's just on my own, or Richard. He's extremely helpful. He's there's a reason I put him as my head while I'm not there. He knows what he's doing. He's been assisting me for a while. Yeah, sorry.
No. Can you talk a little bit about how you got your start?
Oh yeah. So I live in North Carolina, and going into the midterms,
Two people from North
I
Carolina.
noticed that North Carolina was not getting the attention it deserved. North Carolina is a purple
piano
state.
looks kinda nice, though.
It might be moving more red more recently.
The
but
piano
it's still
bench is so
purple.
tall, though.
Like, we can win this state, but no money, no attention was being put towards the Cherry Beasley race, a race that really could have been won. I've always wanted to work in politics. I was actually going to start canvassing back during the 2020 election, but of course,
I mean, honestly, I'm
because of
kind of
COVID, that was really
curious
hard.
if my computer would shit the bed if I tried to play WoW
so I
right now.
decided now,
It probably
COVID
wouldn't
is
work very well.
Mostly gone, right? Of course, it's still an issue, but it's safer now. And this election is not getting the focus it should be getting. So I have a level of online influence, and I use that to bring people out and start canvassing weekly. You know, we would go to different cities around the state week after week. And starting off, we were just like loose. It wasn't even really an organization yet, right?
I'm
We
gonna be ready
just
to leave soon.
became a pack just recently. That's been super exciting. But
I haven't even
after
played
the
in like a
midterms,
week.
we've been working a lot in Virginia. Virginia has off-year elections, so we've been creating relationships with candidates on the ground. Right now, we're looking into doing a big event like this one for the
I actually do need to
primaries
leave
coming
soon.
up in June.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been really cool. It's our to talk about our brand philosophies, I guess. Our biggest things are, collaboration. Right now, I would say our modern politics
See you
are
later, Slaps Hungry
defined by
Bears.
a level of extremism and a level of hate for the other side, which is like, it's a democracy cannot work that way. What I tell people is, regardless of what your opinion is on the issue, the fact that we can't even agree that the 2020 election, was legitimate is a huge problem.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and it seems like it seems like currently the Wisconsin race is almost like a ground zero for that, right? You got like a guy who is literally trying to facilitate the dismantling of the 2020 election versus like an actual judge. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's fucking scary. It's pardon my language. But in 2020, it was only a 4-3 vote.
I like her.
I don't know about that's super scary.
yeah, and it just seems like a lot. I feel like a lot of these local races are starting to kind of like become little community, not little, but like community, I guess referendums, thank you, for on like that issue. And like, it seems to be, from some of like the preliminary things we've been seeing from like the midterms and some of the special elections, it seems like a lot of people are not really on board with like completely abandoning the idea that our democracy works.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is heartening.
Yeah, I was about to say it's heartening. Yeah, the same word. I guess like a big problem right now are people who still have those same kind of proto-fascist beliefs, but they just know how to word them better. Like DeSantis, is probably just as bad or worse than Trump. He just knows how to word his shit better, and that's really scary. That people, don't realize what they're really signing up for.
Yeah.
Or even our little weirdo up in here, Glenn Youngkin. You mentioned Virginia. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, are you in Virginia?
Yes, I am.
Oh my god, let's chat after this. All right, I'd love to work together somehow.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, Glenn Youngkin's a great example of this like very extremely conservative politician who just knows how to sell themselves, right? Which I respect, to be fair. That's a good skill. My favorite politicians on the left are Southern progressive politicians who know how to sell themselves to a moderate audience. Like Roy Cooper, I think is a great progressive candidate.
Her bangs need
governor,
trim.
but he knows
She's
how
just
to
like,
keep it so that Republicans like him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can kind of see that in this race too a little bit with all
I
the
should have taken
candidates,
that
even the ones that
opportunity to
were
leave
in the
earlier.
primary, still being tough on crime, just because of the general area that this race is happening in. So, you can see the regional influence play into, some policy positions almost.
Totally agree. Wait. Oh, go.
I was just gonna ask Richard, like, are you okay after your car breakdown?
No,
Wait,
no.
Richard, your car broke down?
No, my car did not break down. That is John, a different person.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay.
You're all sharing that one account. It's confusing.
Yeah, sorry.
Many faces,
John-
many names.
John is okay. John has made it back to the house in one piece, so he is fine.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Richard, how about you talk about your experience a little bit?
So
As my little gremlin, my little workhorse.
yeah. So in far as like it's like this whole thing.
I'm sorry she's behind the
chat.
chat. I can't fix that.
Like in like for like political stuff in general. I like the first canvassing event I ever did was in Omaha with Destiny, which was for the mayoral thing. Which
That's
was a
3.
primary, which was
I'm
like,
gonna leave
usually
now.
primaries are some of the easiest, toughest
Fuck.
canvassing things you can do because you're like debating Democrats into making sure that they vote for your Democrat instead of another Democrat.
It's like
So
it's
that
like
was, like, a really tough
3
event. It
different
was the
cis
first
guys
snow there, so
mentioned
we, like,
Destiny, and you're
First,
talking
we,
to
like,
like
a foot of
3
snow
different
and, like,
trans
pushing
people
over
right
all the
now.
hills. It was just a fucking horrible. It was a horrible experience. But other than that, from
I need to
that
leave.
event, I made some of my best friends in Texas that I carpooled with there. And then
I know, what is
now,
the deal?
since I went to Maya's event in Georgia. Destiny was doing one in Savannah. Maya was doing one in Augusta for like way longer too than Destiny's. I attended that one the whole time because I thought like there's so many new different people and it was a way smaller thing, so I was like able to meet people way better.
Okay, was
Yeah.
it too much small? Okay, I can't-
Internet
No, Destiny was
From-
like 300 people, so like.
Yeah, Destiny's was insane. It's like it seemed like it'd be very difficult to like form personal connections there. But with that, like I talked to Maya a bunch, and like I was, when I got there, I immediately like took initiative. I was thinking of, like water.
Every time they mention Destiny, take a shot.
Stuff. And then Maya did the next event. It was also it was in Virginia, right?
The next event was, yeah, I think it was Virginia.
That was Virginia. I did at Virginia. I went to that Virginia one too.
Wait, was that
And I'm
the
from
Aaron
Texas,
Rouse
so I'm like-
campaign?
What? Yeah.
Aaron Rouse.
Yeah.
Oh, real quick, Aaron Rouse. Just like let me talk about this campaign real quick. Super tight election. One of the biggest selling points of this election was that Virginia was like 51-49, the state legislature. But the problem was the 51st Democrat was very anti-abortion. So abortion rights were still up in the air. Aaron Rouse would have solidly flipped it onto the abortion camp. And so we went there and we canvassed for the entire weekend. We hit like 2,000 doors or something. He won by only 400 votes. That was fucking crazy.
Dang.
400. Wait.
Congrats.
Yeah, so that was really close. PV also did phone banking there, which super cool. But yeah, just wanted to mention that it was a super close election. Go
Yeah,
on, Richard.
no, like some of the margins that like both PV and Progress Libs have been getting involved with, like some of the margins of victory have been just squeaking by. I think there was a race where like 48 votes made the difference. Like it was some crazy stuff has been going on, and it really just proves like getting out, like even one person, because we talked with Pondering Politics right before you guys came on, and he was talking about having hit like 6 groups of like 50 houses apiece, and like it's not inconceivable that one volunteer could like flip an area that they're canvassing. So like you can absolutely, as a single person, like make a difference in politics, and I think that's worth keeping in mind when we're talking about volunteering, because I think a lot of people get kind of almost tricked into thinking that they have less power than they actually do.
Absolutely. Sabina, who's like the regional director for the Wisconsin Democrats, was telling us that the 2020 election. Wait, which election was it? Richard, do you remember?
I don't think I was there with.
Okay. Either way, a certain election, a statewide election, was won by only
Maya.
6 votes per ward. A ward is like a sub-district in a county, but 6 votes per ward. So if you got your friends to just go out, talk to like 20 people, you could have possibly flipped that election.
That's freaking scary.
So everyone
It was
watching,
the educational. It was Voight that got. She was there. She was running, and then she got kicked out. That was the Board of Education's election.
was it Vought? I thought it was a state election.
I think
2
it was
very
Voight.
different vibes. True. Yeah.
Okay. Wait, how do you Vought? Okay, whatever. But yeah, either way, like anyone watching, if you're too lazy, then you like hate democracy and you love fascism. All right, go out.
Oh, I
do
hate
some
that
shit, you can
liberal
change
take
that
right
election.
there. That was painful. The lib take. Oh
I mean,
no.
And oh, never mind. Sorry, Richard.
Oh, I was gonna say like I just like took an issue with Maya, and then she like I like climbed the ladder through that, and then
Yeah.
so for my appeal to like people why they should canvas is the best friends I've met in my entire life have been through canvassing stuff. And because not only are you like entering like a similar like online community of people where you normally don't meet these people IRL, you like actually get to meet them IRL, and then that's like it's so easy to make friends, like good friends too. And there's like so many, it's just it's like really good opportunity to like get out there and like actually like meet people.
Yeah, for me, whenever I'm organizing a canvassing event, one of the biggest things I want to focus on is community and making sure people have fun.
Why
Because
is
although
Wisconsin?
like the work is important, like the work is the number one priority, and making sure people have fun and enjoy the work itself it makes sure that people come back. Like Richard, this
Yeah.
fucker's coming from Texas every time. Like, what the fuck are you doing? No offense, right? But he has friends, and those are like his only friends. I'm kidding.
Jesus, oh my
Damn.
god.
Roast in here.
Roast.
Grilling me, yeah.
But you get what I mean, right? Like,
But that's awesome to hear, because I know that's a concern that a lot of folks have, is like that social anxiety of going from being, a terminally online person and then making that step to going to touch grass and having to interact with people. And like trans folks have that anxiety of like going to interact with people that you don't know whether they're going to be accepting of you or not, even within Democratic parties. So like it's really great to hear when you all have these positive experiences where you come out not only with more comrades, but with more friends, because I think that's a lot of us have a difficult time. I mean, as an adult, it's like once you're out of school, it's kind of difficult to make friends. So this is one of those things where just basically doing your hobby in a way that you might potentially meet other people. This is like basically the same as going to a sewing class.
yeah. And aside from just the social factors, it can be a great career booster.
Why not, Wisconsin?
Like, like you meet people. Like for example, last time I was there, I talked to someone who was when I was in Wisconsin, I met someone who was like fairly high up in a pack, and we started talking, and there's a possible job opportunity there, right? So if you go, you can find opportunities doing something in politics, doing something that you believe is valuable.
Sounds like a nightmare,
something
but
that you love. I don't know if, all the viewers like politics, but you get what I mean. Put yourself in the environments you want to thrive in.
Yeah, and on top of that, like, not only that, but the environment you're putting yourself in is going to be filled with people who care about the same thing you care about, and who like align with you in a political sense, and like you have a ready topic to talk about because you're all there to help out and volunteer.
You have at least one thing in common.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's like a pre-made way to make friends. Like,
Yeah. There are no awkward silences at the dinner table, If no one knows what to talk about, they just bring up how much they hate Trump or this new election or something, Like there's no you've got something to work off of.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly. You don't have to worry about the Thanksgiving racist uncle ruining everything.
Oh, but sometimes a racist uncle is fun, We all have at least one.
And hey, you might meet a racist uncle while you're out canvassing. Who knows? Spice things up.
Exactly. I love. Man. Most of the time, people are extremely nice. I've only had like 2 bad interactions, but like sometimes it's really funny.
like how can you get? Do you have a story?
Like this was like in Wisconsin. It was baffling to me. I was canvassing. I walk up to this door. Right, lady opens it, and she's like, "Oh, hi. How can I help you?" I'm like, "We are canvassing for Janet. Blah blah blah. Here's our lit." We hand her the papers, and she's like, "Oh, thank you. I already know I'm voting." We're like, "Oh, that's awesome. Who are you voting for?" And she's like, "Well, I'm voting already." And just like without breaking any eye contact, she like just starts ripping the papers to shreds, throws them on the floor, and closes the door. It's like, what?
All right, have a good day, lady.
God.
Yeah.
That was her vote, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh
but
my
I was still
God.
kind of confused because she had a Ukraine flag and like a BLM thing. So I was like, I don't like.
Is she not voting?
I don't.
What?
Maybe she just hates canvassers. I don't know. Which is reasonable, fucking canvassers.
Performative
Get off my lawn.
rudeness. It makes
Yeah.
no sense.
Hates democracy, loves Ukraine.
Yeah, basically.
Oh my God.
I'm going to
I
take
don't
this
know.
moment to say that I have to take care of my friend's cat while they're out of town. So I'm going to drop the call and go take care of the cat like I promised I was going to do.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us, Luxander. It was lovely
Yeah.
having you.
Bye bye. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, it's been great to
It's
talk
really
to you
nice to
all.
meet
Like,
you.
it's so nice to speak with volunteers on the ground and like learn more about what you all are doing. And like, I honestly really appreciate that work. Like, I live in Kansas and I can't really travel because I'm a poor streamer. So I appreciate that y'all are like out there hoofing it and really like seriously making shit happen. Like, that's awesome. And like, thank you to Jack for inviting me. Good to meet you, Kevin. Good to see you as usual, SDL. And yeah, Richard and Maya, I hope you guys have a great night and good luck with this upcoming few weeks where you guys are going to probably be working really hard.
Yeah, and if we do anything in Kansas, you better fucking come, all right?
Hey, if people wear masks, then for sure I'll be there. I'm high risk.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I appreciate y'all, and I hope you have a great night. I will talk to you all later. Thank you so much for chilling with us.
Bye bye.
Bye. Okay. Okay. SDL. Based in Luxpilled. The Twitter bookmark opinions. I haven't seen the Twitter bookmark opinions. That is not something that I have I haven't been keeping track of that. I just saw that there were conversations. You are wrong, gay and cringe. Stream's still going for another couple of minutes, maybe. I want to decompress slightly, and then yeah, I agreed to feed my friend's cat. Having an opinion on any specific Twitter feature is itself cringe. Truly. I loved all the subtle hints. Wait, which subtle hints? What are you talking about? The whole app is gay and wrong. I want to see the kitty. I know. I should take pictures. I should show you guys pictures from the aquarium today. Uh-oh. Bookmarking tweets is an L. Literally 2 use cases. 1, saving porn is weird. 2, saving a thread to read later. Lies, you're never going to read it. Either save it now or abandon it to the void. I mean, I think that's fair. Do I have any tweets bookmarked? Literally, I have no tweets bookmarked. I've literally never used this feature in my life. I leave a tab open if I'm going to read that bitch later. Or I add it to my stream notes, you know? Anyway. Will you give the kitty a kiss for us all? I will give Kitty a kiss. That is what I will do. I will give a kiss on the head. I'm angry right now. I don't get why Destiny has so many fans. He's such a shitty asshat. I don't really get it either. Like, I guess I'm glad that there are people who are getting more involved directly in politics because of this, but seriously, SDL, did you just follow me? All right. It's like hearkening back to my I've been ignored for 10 years by all political people who normally would be attacking people with my views. I was just talking about that in a group chat recently, one of Gayfesh's group chats. Oh yeah, Dizzy's bookmarks are all food and nature. Oh, those cakes look really yummy though. Okay. Yeah, I enjoy doing those kind of conversation panels. Yeah, you've noticed that you weren't following me? Yeah, after like more than a year, I've been in this space. I've been in this space more than a year. I've been streaming more than a year, which means that I've been actively participating in this community for well over a year. I started following Vosh I started really seriously watching a lot of Vosh content in January 2020, right before COVID, basically. Cutting a promo on you now? No. Good grief. Top 10 streamer betrayals. Truly. Well, okay, so I'm tired for real, and I'm gonna try to conserve my energy and decide whether or not I'm streaming tomorrow, because I normally am like, yeah, I should do that, but man, I am fucking not in a good mood today. Help that cat. Help that cat. Yes, I'm gonna go pet a pussy. That's what I'm gonna do with my night. Confession time, I disliked Vosh until last year, basically. Okay, well, yeah, I'm looking forward to sleeping tonight. That's going to be great. You all have been wonderful. I appreciate having some folks to hang out with us when we do these kind of streams. They're usually not the bumpinest streams, but that's okay. We got a little $5 dono. That's cool. Yeah, I'm Sleppy. I'll talk to you guys later. Okay, good night.